and things are not going well, still, you need to look. But if you don't look, and you know, that is our problem. We all find a problem here, you know, so that we can hang that person. But maybe we are the main cause of the problem. I'm not saying Otuado is correct doing everything perfect. No, it's not, because like you say, it's not doing that perfect that we want, all we want. Of course, football, if you don't win, what do you have to do? You go. But sometimes it's 6 times, 6 coaches. So there is something maybe going on. That's why all these things are not happening.
The World Cup qualifiers are coming up in March. Should that be a point to redeem ourselves?
Me?
No, the Black Stars. The Black, should they use that
because I'm not playing so.
No, that's what I'm saying. Should they use
the FA and the coach, this is the time to use these games to redeem themselves, because we are Ghanaians. We are going to pray for them. When we have to say something, we will say it as it is. We will say it to them. It's up to them whether they will take it or leave it. But if we can't qualify to the World Cup, Massa, disaster.
So the disaster is, should they leave? If you fail to qualify for a World Cup, it means that they shouldn't stay.
If I'm an honorable man, and I can't qualify to the how do I call it? The World Cup. I'll just put my things down and leave.
So would you suggest to them that if, since
I'm not suggesting to them, they should
since
know.
they have failed to qualify for the AFCON, if you fail to qualify for the World Cup,
that is what I'm saying. If me, I can't qualify for the African Cup, then I miss World Cup too. No, guys, come on. So if I don't supposed to tell them. They should know. They should know.
So if you were the head coach of the Black Stars and you played 6 matches and failed to qualify for the AFCON, you would have walked away. You would have resigned. Would you have resigned? If you were the coach of the Black Stars and you failed to qualify for the AFCON, would you have resigned? I can give myself another chance, like Otto is doing. That no, I'll do my best. I'll push to get to qualify for the World Cup to redeem myself or my name, so that Ghanaians will come back to me. I'll give myself that chance. But this is the last chance that he can get. After this one, I don't think Ghanaians will be okay. Say, he should come and even do assistant. You understand me? Ghanaians will not forgive him to even come for another this thing for as an assistant coach. No, but he still have a chance to redeem himself. But it should be tough. The tough I'm talking about, when somebody come and the person don't put that same effort like they are doing there, have that courage and drop that person. Let Ghanaians talk that why you don't call this, and let them know that when they come, they don't put what they suppose, because what they are doing there, they never. I ask you to give me one person who is doing what they are doing there. They are doing it here. Kudus.
What Kudus is doing there? Is he playing the same?
Yeah.
Is he playing the same here?
Yes.
Master, stop. And that is why we are having problems. That is why we are having problems. What Kudus do there? He has never done one here. If you are a best player in the team, because you are doing good, everybody likes you. Of course, he has his own potential that he is good. But that doesn't make him good always on the field. When he's playing there, always playing there, he plays better than here. And when they play there, everything is agent, you know, the agency. You say the agency, this thing, you know, agency. And when they come, somebody will work like nothing has stake.
Was it right for Otuado to make Kudus the Black Stars captain in the games against Sudan? Was it right? Because people said that it brought lots of chaos into the team.
What chaos? Because people respect that band like, what is band? You know, when you put band, I put band on you. Sometimes it gives that player, how do I call it? Some kind of
pressure?
No.
Leadership?
No, not leadership. It boosts your morale. Sometimes it helps you to do more.
Yes.
You know, because you feel like, hey, Charlie, I'm the captain, so you want to do more. You do it in the right way. But some of them, when they give them that band, they feel like they should take the ball and dribble everybody and go and score. That's why they have a captain. You understand me? Yeah. Somebody also feel like, well, Charlie, I am a captain. I have to play good football. You know, play simple. You don't want to make any mistake because he's the captain. So it depends how you take it and how you think. But me, band. What is band?
So the chaos within the team was unnecessary.
Bringing those chaos is necessary. It's unnecessary. To me, it's unnecessary because, boss, we want a leader in the national team, not
not cap.
Bank of Africa, as strong as a group, as close as a partner.
Where Duraplas goes, water flows.
PS Industries has introduced a new roofing system known as ColorLink Plus.
Flamingo paint, simply superior.
Syntax tank, are you strong? Are you tough?
Cherry Tree Properties. We develop spaces as though we were going to occupy them.
With debts. But the Minister of Finance, Cathedral, says President Mahama has a solution. He will fix the broke economy. And in pursuit of the 24-hour economic policy, this budget is aimed at stimulating economic growth and job creation. They have a policy that will contribute to addressing Ghana's structural economic challenges by creating an integrated, efficient, increasingly export-driven industrial economy that fully utilizes national resources, capital, and labor. And this is the resetting the economy for the Ghana we want budget. It's a budget that is also influenced by a national economic dialogue. How much in the budget was so influenced? Atuforsen says that at the dialogue, the people demanded decisive action and real solutions to the severe challenges that plague the economy. We'll find out if this is so reflected in the budgets. IGP Dr. Akuffo Dampare has been pushed out. Did he just fail, or he has been sacrificed, as in success has been sacrificed? There have been many commentaries, including sections of jubilation within the police service. What's that all about? In the commentary, some defamatory, unless they are true. We'll be right back to deal with the vexed matters. I'm Samson Ladi Anyanini. This is Newsfile. This is your most authoritative news analysis platform.
You're strong and you're tough. Syntax tank A by A. Syntax tank. Ladies and gentlemen, I beg you, check your tongue and get syntax. SINTAX. CEF. Where you're just over 25 years, we are made in Ghana water storage solution. You were green, you were blue, colors in there, but gray. That's your baha, your mom free water. We have over 400 agents nationwide. Just Ghana finance, yeah, baho. Find us on social media, Syntax Ghana, not nominate here. Say Giovanni, Syntax, say, I need you in this community. And it's that simple. I will be there myself. Syntax Ghana page. All right, so just like that, we're wrapping up inside Tessie. Syntax Tank!
strong! For decades, we have helped businesses connect with their trade partners all over the globe. From Ghana to Burkina Faso, Côte d'Ivoire, Benin, Togo, Senegal, China, Morocco, France, Netherlands, and many other countries. We have made it possible to bring Ghana to the world. We have brought small and medium businesses closer to their customers across the regions in Ghana with our SME support facilities. We have brought relief and smiles to the faces of families with our employee personal loans. With our cutting-edge technology and digital support, we take the burden of complex thinking off you, making life simple. That is who we are, as close as a partner. Bank of Africa. We are indeed the African bank with the global reach.
Ladies and gentlemen, we're going to demonstrate to you the superior properties of Flamingo paint as compared to other paint brands on the market. We take equal quantities of Flamingo paint and this ordinary paint. We then dilute them with water. And now, let the test begin. The gentleman on the left is going to apply the ordinary paint, and the gentleman on my right will use the Flamingo superior paint. As you can clearly see, Flamingo has the obvious better hiding. Furthermore, Flamingo has painted a much larger area. You know, one bucket of Flamingo paint is equal to several buckets of any other paint brand on the market. Flamingo paint is made with superior formulation to give superior durability, superior hiding, superior coverage. Flamingo paint, simply superior.
Excellent furnishing in a real estate business is a great deal for survival. My struggles as a young estate developer were cut short when I discovered Fernart Ghana. With quality furniture made from the finest woods and amazing after-sale service, Fernart Ghana changed my story with every single home I built. It's a one-stop shop that serves the interests of clients with a variety of living room and dining sets, solid wood kitchen installations, wardrobes, doors, cabinets, beds, pergolas, floor parquets, and many other wooden product that will last a lifetime. With Fernat Ghana, all clients are offered the opportunity to customize furniture to their specifications, and the smile on their faces says it all. Thanks to Fernat, now your home can look beautiful with furniture that would last for generations. Visit Fernat Ghana today and share my story. Locate us at Dampare Estate, Osu, Accra, or call 0303-966-085 or 055-278-4097. Think wood, think Fernat.
Slam. Set your style anywhere in the world by breaking all the rules. Shout with all your soul and sparkle with 1,000 blaze. Pick a color what suits you best and launch the slam movement, yeah. Be someone who lets the presence felt, who dares to get a hold of the here and now with no fears and make our way to tomorrow. Join me, let's do this with the slam. Peace and quiet.
Welcome back. This is Newsfile, and thanks for always choosing us. Here is something at stake. Reverend Kusi Boateng not in NIB detention. My take today was to be on Galamsey as persons reported to be associated with the NDC appear to take over the reins of power. In the Galamsey underworld. In the Galamsey business, ongoing military raids have led to seizure of 10 excavators and a bulldozer in the Tano Anua Forest Reserve. But there's disturbing information pointing to politically connected persons acting with impunity, seizing and selling off others' lawfully acquired concessions to Chinese. This is happening in renewed Galamsey operations since the change in government. Mr. President, act swiftly, even as your government commences the process to repeal that very bad 2022 law that allows mining in forest reserves. That's LI 2462. Now, I had to check on viral news reports last night. And these news reports were about the arrest and detention of Reverend Victor Kusi Boateng. It is not true that the Secretary to the Board of Trustees of the National Cathedral is in National Investigations Bureau detention. That's not true. The founder and general overseer of the Power Chapel Worldwide should be in his church tomorrow, and tomorrow is Sunday, doing his job as a pastor. We have confirmed that he was granted bail in the sum of 50,000 Ghana cedis following an invitation to the NIB offices upon his arrival at the Kotoka International Airport on Thursday afternoon. He was cautioned on alleged conspiracy to cause financial loss in respect of the National Cathedral project and not over double identity as widely reported in the media. Reverend Kusi Boateng, also known as Kwabena Edu-Gyamfi, drove to the NIB at about 1 p.m. in the company of his lawyers. He gave his statement at about 8 p.m. and that was it. It is curious how the Secretariat, the trust itself, the National Cathedral, the trust itself, is not in the picture. So it is curious how the Secretariat is absent, as in the entire body is absent, while the Secretary to the board is being pursued over conspiracy. I have confirmed that there is not yet a substantive charge against the trustees. The board, upon the resignation of the Archbishop Nicholas Duncan Williams and Reverend Isura Naba, is constituted by Apostle Professor Opoku Onyina, who is a chairperson, Archbishop Charles Palmer Buckle, the vice chairperson, the Most Reverend Bishop Justice Ofea Krofi, the Right Reverend Professor Emmanuel Mate, the Most Reverend T.K. Awotwe Pratt, Reverend Dr. Joyce Aye, Kwesi Boateng himself and the Reverend Dr. Frimpong Manso, as well as Kingsley Ofosu in Tiamwa. The board, as I said, is apparently unaware of any invitations or about its activities. It is apparently unaware of any investigations about anything it has done, to which the secretariat or the secretary is now being invited over. Anything that was done by the board, and the secretary could not have taken any decisions except to be authorized to implement the decisions of the board. So if there is financial loss, basic law will show that the board will be the first point. And if there is conspiracy, as is being, held, then it is conspiracy with who? His lawyers had earlier been to the NIB to inquire if he would be needed, as he was ready and willing to voluntarily submit himself and cooperate with investigations. But the officers reportedly denied any plans to arrest him upon his arrival at the Kotoka International Airport. Surprisingly, he was accosted upon his arrival from a trip to London, returning through Dubai. So they had approached you, that they have information that you intend to arrest him. He is ready and willing to submit himself. What's the point of any show if he's ready to submit himself? You say no, and then he arrives, and then you accost him. He was questioned by 5 NIB officers, 2 women and 3 men, and there was never a question about double identity. In any case, you remember, Sraji's verdict on that issue in November 2024 was emphatic that the Honorable Samuel Okudzeto Blackwest claimed that Reverend Kwesi Boateng had 2 different passports, each bearing one of his 2 names with different dates of birth, was untrue or not proving, and that he rather had a diplomatic and an ordinary passport, both under the same name, and that he had never been issued a passport in his name, Victor Kwesi Boateng. And that will be my take. We'll be right back.
For decades, we have helped businesses connect with their trade partners all over the globe. From Ghana to Burkina Faso, Côte d'Ivoire, Benin, Togo, Senegal, China, Morocco, France, Netherlands, and many other countries. We have made it possible to bring Ghana to the world. We have brought small and medium businesses closer to their customers across the regions in Ghana with our SME support facilities. We have brought relief and smiles to the faces of families with our employee personal loans. With our cutting-edge technology and digital support, we take the burden of complex thinking off you, making life simple. That is who we are, as close as a partner. Bank of Africa. We are indeed the African bank with the global reach.
Hello esteemed CEOs, join us for the highly anticipated 9th Ghana CEO Summit and Expo on 26th May 2025 at Kempinski Hotel, Gold Coast, Accra, from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. This biggest business leadership conference offers actionable insight and strategic opportunities for topmost CEOs and policymakers. This year's theme, leading Ghana's economic reset, transforming business and governance for a sustainable futuristic economy, will focus on transformational leadership to reset Ghana's economy through sustainability, digital innovation, and governance reforms. Be inspired by the special guest of honor, His Excellency President John Dramani Mahama. Key sessions include CEO presentations, master classes, keynote plenaries, the CEO Excellence Awards, and more. Register today at GhanaCEOSummit.com to secure your spot. For inquiries and sponsorship, contact 0546 391 970 or email info@GhanaCEOSummit.com. Powered by Ghana CEO Network in partnership with Deloitte, PwC, GIPC, SIGA, and Multimedia Group. Ghana CEO Summit. Be inspired.
Number 1 from here, 2 and 3 from here, 5 and 6 from here. For now. Yay. Now I have the number 7, 8, and the number 9.
You need number 10.
Please, I can't eat anymore.
I mean, number 10, liver salt.
The effective liver salt for the relief of stomach upset, heartburn, hyperacidity, and indigestion.
Would you like to try number 11?
What?
Number 10 liver salt. Refreshing relief fast. Manufactured and distributed by Ernest Chemists Limited. This advert is FDA approved.
March is Colorectal Cancer Awareness Month.
Have you attained 45 years and older? Notice blood in your stool, a family history of cancer? Then don't wait to have a colonoscopy. Early detection of cancer and effective treatment save lives.
There are weak points in the development and spread of cancers of the large bowel that we have control over to stop, to reduce the incidence and deaths from these cancers. Achieving this success depends on you and me. We are fully prepared. What about you?
Visit Mintuba Hospital and Coloproctology Center today or call us. Mintuba Hospital, First Ghana Colorectal Center, in to serve a peculiar health need.
You're welcome back. This is Newsfile. It's your most authoritative news analysis platform. When we say it's your most authoritative news analysis platform, we mean it. Because that's exactly what this show is and has been in the last 3 decades. Right. So you're welcome. And what I'm wearing is Fugu exclusive. If you're a lover of Fugu, but you don't want it thick and heavy, this is light. Fugu exclusive from Konati Clothing. And Konati Clothing is celebrating Ramadan with you and asking that as you prepare, as you fast and prepare, order, your outfits. You can call 0244 676732, 0244 676732. Konati Clothing, they are giving you between 10 and 15% discount so that your Ramadan celebrations will be beautiful. And this show, as always, is brought to you by the candid sponsorship of Bank of Africa, as strong as a group and close as a partner. MTN, everywhere you go. Ashesi University, educating ethical and entrepreneurial leaders for Africa. What Ashesi does, all of us should be able to do in every institution. I like their honor code, where they are taking exams and there's no invigilation, and nobody will dare cheat. This is a Ghana we want to build for ourselves. Robert & Sons Optical Services, your comprehensive eye care service provider for 33 plus years. My Way Insurance. You dial *165# on MTN to join My Way today. DBS Industries, roofing, Papa Fie. Now, almost everywhere is DBS, isn't it? Yeah, and their roofing is just strong, it's good. Flamingo Paints, that's also the paint in vogue. Simply superior. Syntex tanks, it's strong, it's tough. Activa International Insurance, our clients are passion. Now, welcome my guest as we begin to break down the budget statement that was presented by Dr. Cathedral Atto-Forson, the Minister for Finance, and we see whether or not this big push is pushing the economy up or downhill, as the minority claims. I guess Dr. Priscilla Chumesi is economist, University of Ghana Business School. Dr. Stephen Amwa is former Deputy Minister for Finance and MP in Shaiso. Al-Hassan S. Suhini is Deputy Minister for Roads and Highways and MP Tamale North. Dr. Kwabena Nyako Otu is Deputy Secretary General, Trades Union Congress. These are our guests for the very first segments. Ladies and gentlemen, good morning and welcome to Newsfile.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Great. So let's listen to Dr. Atto-Forson briefly. He's speaking about the 24-hour economy, abolishing of nuisance taxes, and you know you're going to pay lesser VAT now. People are excited. There's not going to be betting, tax to pay. Some say it didn't exist, but I think that there is a retreat that it really exists because money was taken from the betting tax. And of course, the e-levy. All right, so listen to him quickly. We'll return to the studio.
We will abolish the 10% withholding tax on winning from lottery, otherwise known as the betting tax. Mr. Speaker, we will abolish the electronic transfer levy, e-levy, of 1%. Mr. Speaker, we will abolish the 10% withholding tax on betting. We will abolish the electronic transfer levy, e-levy of 1%. We will abolish the emission levy, otherwise as in Wusie tax. We will abolish the VAT on motor vehicle insurance policy. Mr. Speaker, we will abolish the 1.5% withholding tax on unprocessed gold by small-scale miners. Mr. Speaker, the removal of these taxes will ease the burden on households and improve their disposable income. Right, Honorable Speaker, the removal of these taxes will ease the burden on households and improve their disposable incomes. In addition, it will support business growth and improve tax compliance. The Speaker, at the end of December 2024, provisional data indicate that gross central government and guaranteed debt was 726.7 billion from 610 billion in 2023. This represents 61.8% of GDP in 2024, compared to 68.7% in the year 2023. Mr. Speaker, it is instructive to note that the debt to GDP ratio and the dollar component of our debt that has come down, that has reduced, is as a result of the 37% haircut on principal of Eurobond debt under the debt restructure. Mr. Speaker, it is important to know that. Mr. Speaker, Right Honorable Speaker, it is instructive to note that the debt to GDP that has reduced is as a result of the 37% haircut on principal and interest that were given to Eurobond bondholders. Mr. Speaker, you may recall that the government commenced the debt restructuring program in the year 2022 to restore debt sustainability and economic stability. As of now, the restructuring process is approximately 93% completed. The remaining 7% relate to debt of $2.7 billion owed to commercial creditors. We are committed to completing the remaining debt restructuring as soon as possible.
Right, that's the finance minister. Dr. Stephen Amoah, welcome. Great. And surprising.
Very handsome.
This is Fugu exclusive.
It's so nice.
From Konati Clothing. Great. Thank you very much.
I don't know what you mean by today. He's looking very handsome. Doesn't he always look handsome?
Okay.
He does.
You guys are not in Parliament. It's an interesting place, right?
Yeah.
Parliament. Very interesting.
Yeah.
God.
Yeah.
It looks like you must answer every little thing that is said about your party or government.
Because it goes on record. And the records are there forever. The Hansard, people who do research, and people will continue to do research.
So you let nothing
hundreds
go.
of years.
Right.
So you don't want them to find
always
a
be a
misrepresentation.
Okay,
Yes.
Great. Okay, so, Prof, we start with you. A lot of taxes, repealed, scrapped. Betting tax is gone, COVID-19 levy is gone, e-levy gone, emission levy. Of course, that's the law that is being abolished. VAT on motor vehicle insurance policy gone. Withholding tax on winning of unprocessed gold gone, cancelled. One district, one factory, you start. My first question to you will be, we're giving the impression, and it's been consistent from the state of the nation to the budget, that the economy is in intensive care. We are broke. And that the National Economic Dialogue was going to give new ideas, fresh ideas to rebound. So the minister said that the budget was being presented after the economic dialogue. And at the economic dialogue, I quote him, he said, the people demanded decisive action and real solutions to the severe challenges that plague us. You were there, and you were very hopeful that from the trajectory of things, things will improve. Did you see the things you proposed, you discussed, reflect in the budget?
Right. Thank you very much, Samson. Good morning, and good morning to your cherished listeners and viewers. Indeed, at the National Economic Dialogue, a number of issues came up, and I think you've given a good premise as to what necessitated the dialogue. We know that the economy of Ghana has gone through tough times in recent times. When you look at the data, there are signs that there's recovery, although the recovery is on the back of debt restructuring. And when you look at the budget, you see that there's a lot of debt service responsibility ahead of us as a nation going forward. And so in the budget, you see that fiscal consolidation is very critical because that is at the base of most of the challenges. We know that macroeconomic stability is also the foundation of everything. If businesses will thrive, if consumer confidence will go up, it means that people must retain value in their incomes, and that is macroeconomic stability, keeping inflation under control, keeping the currency in check, and reducing interest rates through the proper channels. All those indicators are what are essential for a stable economy, for businesses to thrive and flourish. And so at the National Economic Dialogue, one factor really that was stressed with the macro stability is the fact that government debt ought to also be in check. And so in the budget, I was happy to know that, for example, the minister is indicating a review of the Fiscal Responsibility Act. That was one of the propositions we made, because there has to be institutions that check the way governments spend. And for example, there is also the proposition that there should be the legislation of, for instance, the Fiscal Responsibility Committee, not just by appointment or by recommendation by the Office of the President, but it has to have a legal status that would have binding constraints on the executive. Right. And also there's a proposition for example, a debt ceiling, for instance, so that no government is allowed to borrow up to a certain level. And so all those are some of the recommendations that are made. And when you look at the budget, you see strands of those recommendations. But of course, these are a medium to long-term plans that need to be rolled out. You cannot do everything within a year. And so in that sense, we see that you find those traces in the budget. And so I am excited that it was not just another talk shop, but at least you see that some of the issues, but the reality is also in the implementation, I must say. And yeah.
Thank you very much. And Dr. Priscilla Chumesi-Bafo is with the Economics Department of the University of Ghana. And so the things that they propose, she can see some of them clearly in the budget. And in reading the budget, I see some of the things she mentions. Fiscal consolidation is an important thing to the minister, the macroeconomic stability, keeping inflation under control, and all of that. Also, she spoke about the reviewing some of the legislation. I think even right from page 1, he began to talk about a host of laws that were going to be reviewed, including the Fiscal Responsibility Act. I think there were about 11 of them. He had listed 10, and he omitted to add 1, so he did that extempore. Let's see how all of that go. And those include the Petroleum Revenue Management, the Ghana Infrastructure Investment Fund Act, the Energy Sector Levies Act, the Cocoa Board Act, the earmark funds, capping, Realignment Act, the Public Procurement Authority Act, the Ghana Education Trust Fund Act, the Revenue Administration Act, among others. So, Dr. Sevinamwa, right after, as is always expected, we saw you, the NPP, minority all over the place, giving, as it were, contrary views on the budget. Right, actually on the floor, it began with Afenyo King, the minority leader, which is useful because we need a minority to be able to keep the government in check. This is a good budget that will help us turn the corner, so to speak, right?
Is it a question or that's your emphatic statement?
It's a question.
Thank you.
Right.
The way you said this is good budget. So my greetings to our viewers and listeners this very morning, and thank you for giving me this opportunity. Samson, I think if you really get into the details of the budget, you realize that there hasn't been any new paradigm shift. It looks like the same trend since I started talking about budget statements in Ghana. That doesn't mean it's good or bad. I'm not talking about that. What it means is that I want to pick it from where my respectable doctor came from. That,
and this will be your preliminary comment, overview.
Okay, it's not just about what we see in the budget, it's about the implementation. Because budgets are just projections. They are statements with intentionality, what we intend to do. So it is the implementation that will enable us know that the variance will let us know whether indeed what we said we're going to do in our budget, we've been able to implement them more than we targeted or less or the same. So it will be difficult for me to say now whether it is one of the best budgets or even the worst budget.
Of course, I have my reservations when it comes to most of the extract from the budget. But I also think that if it's just projection, you also have a few things in it that one will say that, oh, if we're able to implement them, they will be of help to us. Having said that, I want us to also appreciate or acknowledge the fact that, that's why I said that it looks like it's a cliche stuff. This issue about fiscal space, how we deal with our tax policies, how we deal with our lending, our borrowing with respect to our GDP, which to me is the most important indicator we need to look at. These have been areas that we tend to forget that they are calibrated in nature in terms of decisions, and that depending on how your fiscal space is, then you decide to either take away taxes or include new ones or increase some of the items, because we are always pushed by what the public expects. And because of the NDC and PP, sometimes we make arbitrary decisions. And I'm begging the public that they shouldn't take just this to do, you call it postcard or something to tarnish my image. They should look at the explanation I'm giving. Because now sometimes it's difficult talking. You don't know where they want to change the story for people to insult you. And we are getting increasingly inhibited. We want to serve this country. Let us do this country a great deal of good. Because if you inhibit me from speaking the truth, people cannot learn from me and others. The point that I'm making today is that, you say it's preliminary comment. What I'm saying is that there are a lot of things in the budget that I disagree. There are a few of them that I think if they are able to implement them, it will help us. But the bottom line is, let's wait and see. And I'm not saying this looking for negative results. No, I'm a statesman. I want to see the implementation, the fulfillment, sticking and adhering to. Because some of the expenditures that we see when it comes to Office of Government Machinery do not really necessarily depict a government that is ready to be careful in spending. Right. This is what I can say for now.
Okay. So you make your point, and as for what people will say, make your point with your conviction and leave people to say what they will say. I know you're a patient man. I saw you patiently handle somebody in the premises of Parliament who was clearly misconducting himself in the manner he dealt with you, and you were very patient about it. And I think that is very good, right?
And now, give me 1 second here about Parliament, so that people will see.
No.
All of us are not safe. Yeah, ask him. Now strangers all over.
Okay.
So they should do something.
They shouldn't allow them inside unless they have been invited or they have something to do there. Now, both say that implementation is an important thing. We all know that is the point. But my Bible even tells me that you write the vision down. And it says, make it plain so that those that run will run with it. And there will be success. So it's good. We see it on the face. All the things you're seeking to do, it bolsters confidence. But it is the implementation.
My colleagues on the set and to our viewers, especially the very good people of the Tamale North constituency. Thank you for having me here. It's not only your Bible that talks about the fact that intentions matter. The Quran also clearly projects that. I'm not very well versed in the Arabic, but let me try. In Nama Amalu Biniyat, we are told in the Quran that actions are judged by intentions. And so sometimes there are situations where preachers will tell you that your actions may not even earn you a condemnation from God, because he will at that point judge you based on your intentions.
It's a basic principle of law. A child of less than 12 is not known to commit a crime because they don't have the mind for it.
The mens rea, you people call it, right? Yeah. So intentions matter, and signaling is important, especially in governance. And clearly, if we all agree, like I hear many people agree, that the signals in the budget point to hope, points to a government that intends to be responsive, a government that intends to be sensitive, then at this point in time, that is what we really need as a country, because we have been so low that what can help us is the right kind of signaling that will get everybody to, play their part in ensuring that those intentions that are captured in the budget, actually are implemented to the best of the ability of those who are tasked with the responsibility of implementing same. And I'm also excited that we had this national dialogue before the budget statement. And some of the views that were expressed there are finding expression in this budget. And that is why, Samson, I've always said that those who think that the need for a national discussion or a conversation on a matter that affects all of us is an indication of lack of ideas by the one who calls for such a discourse is, with the greatest of respect, an act of arrogance. Anybody who thinks like that is an arrogant person, who thinks that if you call others to come and have a conversation, it's because you don't have ideas. Then it means you are still conceited that you think your ideas are the best. But Samson, that is not the case, because even in our local language, we are told that two heads are better than one.
In the multitude of counselors, there's safety.
Absolutely. So even if you think your idea is the brightest, is the greatest, it is an act of humility and sensitivity to still want to test it in the multitude of other ideas. If at the end of the day, everyone comes to agree with your idea, they will lend support to it easily in its implementation.
Remember, this is your overview of the budget.
So yes, so that's the point I'm making. So I'm quite happy that we had these conversations and we are seeing some of those things reflect in the budget. And we are all going to play our part in ensuring that we either monitor or take decisions where we are tasked to ensure that, these intentions actually are implemented. Because when they are implemented, it is to our own good. And I have already used a couple of words: responsive, sensitive, and the fact that this will also help us to take governance, in my view, to the local level. Right. And maybe when we get into the details, I will explain why I think it was a responsive budget. It was, a sensitive one.
Do we have Dr. Kwabena Nyakoto online? Doc, thanks very much. From where you sit, do you glean some confidence in the budget statement?
Thank you, Samson, and good morning to the panelists and listeners. I think I do. The budget statement, as we have it, has good statements, vibes. And as the other panelists have said, if only we will walk the talk and follow through with proper implementation, we surely should be able to deal with some of the problems we have in this country. So, for example, let me give an example about the Agriculture for Economic Transformation Program.
Good.
And then zoom in on the Nkokon Kitinkiti project. Mm-hmm. So if, for example, by the end of 2025, we are able to provide all the support we have stated we will give in the budget to poultry farmers, we should be on our road to ending the import of poultry product into this country. And that in itself will be significant. Because, mind you, today we are importing about 90 to 95% of our poultry needs. Why should Ghana do that? And if you do same for the vegetables that we import, we should be on the road to achieving something significant for this country.
Self-sufficiency?
Come again?
I was asking if you were pointing at self-sufficiency.
Yes, and this is what this country needs in order to be able to actually preserve the value of the city. If there's so much pressure on the city for import, there's pressure on the city. But it's also what we need to be able to create value for ourselves, to be able to address the unemployment problem that we face in this country. So my point is, and like others have said, every budget has its plus and minuses. But actually, what we do with the little things we have stated in the budget, their actual implementation is what really matters. To make sure that at the end of the day, we don't say one thing and do another.
And in your experience dealing with political class who, control the purse, how much, on a rate of 1 to 10, how much belief do you put, or faith do you put in these statements?
I will give them about 5. And that 5, I even will have to issue a caveat. So, for example, when we say we roll out a government support scheme for people, for Ghanaians, for entrepreneurs, both parties are guilty of picking their party people, not real entrepreneurs who are into the business of, for example, growing the poultry sector or supporting rice farmers. And that is one of the main researching agenda must address. Okay. And to also add on, I think that this budget statement has a number of important things that must be developed going forward. So, for example, the minister talks about changing our economic model. I don't see much of the policy framework to do that. So my lecturer, Dr. Chumesi Prensler, for example, talks about the need for macroeconomic stability. But if you look, if you go through the budget and scrutinize it well, why is it that all the economists in this country have taken out employment from the macroeconomic variables? Why should it be so? Because she taught me at the University of Ghana that one of the most important macroeconomic variables is employment. Why have we taken it out of the macroeconomic framework in this country? And as the president indicated in the State of the Nation's address, there are over 2 million youth in this country that are unemployed. We had expected a change economic model to incorporate a target on how we achieve employment or how we actually reduce the unemployment of young people in this country. So that at the end of the fiscal year, we do not assemble here again to talk about inflation, which is important though. We also ought to have been able to say that, okay, the minister said you will reduce unemployment rate from this number to this number. And then we have a framework to be able to address those kinds of things.
Thank you very much. On a good note, I come to Dr. Priscilla Chumesi. But for, again, as he mentions, Dr. Utu mentions, for the many years I've hosted you on the show, and we rarely get you. And that's good anyway. I find you are always concerned about job creation, youth unemployment, job creation, youth unemployment. Does this budget speak to it, particularly at a time when the unemployment rate is widening?
Thank you once again, Samson. I think that to put the discussion in perspective, we must acknowledge that this budget is coming on the back of an extended credit facility program. That is the IMF program that we are on. And so the IMF program places a lot of emphasis on fiscal consolidation. You need to get your macro statistics right. And when that is right, all other things will follow. And so when you look at the budget, I also see that there are a lot of social interventions that are being enhanced or improved. And that is also, to a large extent, addressing some of the negative press that the IMF and international agencies suffer because under periods of austerity, there are usually a lot of hardship in the system. And so when you look at the budget, you see that LEAP beneficiaries are increasing. There's been increase in capitation, grant, school feeding program, and all the other indicators that are sort of cushioning the poor in terms of while trying to stabilize the environment. And so critically looking at this, you see that most of the interventions within the budget are really on the consumer end. The consumer end in the sense that the minister indicated. So for example, e-levy no longer exists, meaning that you are increasing disposable incomes of people. Betting tax, although I don't know how young people will come at me at this, but I still have a lot of reservations against the removal of the betting tax. I am of a considered opinion that it is income that must be taxed because we continuously talk about the need to broaden the tax base. And if an existing handle is there and is credible, I don't think that we should take it out. But that said, it means that there is a lot of revenue, disposable income on the part of the consumer. But when you look at the producer end, you do not see a lot of it. And so, for example, the minister indicates that the big push policy would be sent to Parliament for, that is, I believe that when we get that, we will be able to look critically at some of the issues. So, for example, if you do not address some of the structural challenges in terms of the production side, agriculture, industry, services, to create the needed jobs, quote and unquote, you are putting a lot of resources, liquidity out there on the consumer side. But if producers are not able to respond with production, then it means that you struggle to control inflation. And then job creation would also be an issue. And so in all, for example, under the big push, I think that that is where all the other incentives that will go to industry would be addressed. But one of the issues I also have in this country is that we need to have policy consistency. And so, for example, when you look at the social aspects, we have done well. And I think that you see that the hand of the IMF and international agencies consistently will push on continuity of your social policies. But when it comes to our industrial policies, you see that every time one government will come and do one thing, another would come and abolish and do another. So you do not find consistent support for Ghanaian businesses, for them to grow and thrive. Businesses do not become conglomerates over a 4-year period. And so, for instance, the One District, One Factory initiative, for example, I know that over 100 firms benefited from that. Don't we have any that are viable in there that can be supported under the Big Push initiative, for instance? Because the government is focusing about job creation. Job creation does not know any color as to whether it's MPP or NDC. But that also falls into the point that Dr. Otu indicated. If beneficiaries are consistently chosen based on party colors, then when a party changes, the other party would not want to do that. And I think that as a country, particularly on our industrial end, where we are trying to encourage indigenous businesses to grow and flourish, we should try and do away with some of these challenges. Really.
Thank you. And apart from what you just, enumerated, what in the budget excites you? What's in the budget? What other aspects of the budget excite you and give you hope that the situation will be turned around?
I must say that I am cautiously optimistic on that tangent, because we are still on a recovery mode. And when you look at most of the projections that are made, you see that it is moving closely with the IMF program implementation outline that is rolled out. And I must also indicate that the growth projection in the budget, for me, is very conservative. Very conservative in the sense that when you look at the growth numbers for last year, it was 5.7. I think that the data came out quite late, I think a day to the presentation of the budget. But if that is the case, the IMF program projects a growth rate of 4.7 for this year, and government is presently projecting a growth rate of 4. We want to look at what is driving that kind of conservative estimation. I see that, yes, there could also be some political gains that will make in there. So you are modest in your projection and then you overperform at the end of the day. But that also has implications on expectations of people. It has implications on government revenue and then implications on spending as well. But overall, I wouldn't say that I am overly excited or disappointed. I think that I'm in the middle. And particularly, this is a budget on the back of ECF program, and we are sticking to the program.
And the minority NPP, Stephen Amwa, you look at the projected growth to be a signal of failure from the start, because you compare it to what you did even under what you say is a very stressed economy, and you did 5 point something, and now it's 4%. Is that the best way to analyze this?
Okay, thank you, Samson. I think just before that, a couple of issues raised that I think they are important for all of us, or for me to add my voice to it. In the first place, my honorable member talked about the fact that that consensus building exercise they conducted, some people are saying because they lack ideas. Having heard that, but truly people have said that, then I side with him.
I've heard
that is totally unacceptable if somebody says that, because even in strategic management, one of the lenses of strategy development is building strategy by ideas, collection of ideas. So it's extremely important that you operate open culture system. But maybe for one or two other internally known reasons, my leadership and all of us from minority side did not attend that one. Maybe we don't want to explain for now. But aside with him, that does not illustrate the fact that they lack ideas. So we need to take that to the right. We need to consider that. And then the second person that we spoke about employment issues, which to me is extremely key. But then let's link that to what Doctor just said, my dear sister here. I think what is happening in our country is our inability, I call it from the farm to the factory, or from farm to factory to the factory. I am at the moment working on something, a research with a professor, which will come out probably by next year. Because most of our problems, apart from this policy inconsistency she talked about, is our inability as a country to connect our widely endowed natural resources and raw materials, and even farm produce, to that finished goods. We all talk about them. The day we get that right, something, most of our problems will be solved. There will be sustainable job creation, importation will go down, people will get job to do, there will be liquidity, taxes will be done from production side, and most of the hardships will be reduced. So it's one area we need to look at critically.
Get rid of the Gadsby economy.
Exactly. But something where most of the times we get it wrong as a country is that NDC sometimes have fine policies, NPP have fine policies, but one of the things we don't do is what precedes this policy statement. Do we conduct the needed research, get the needed data, develop our value chains, analyze the risk factor before we even promise Ghanaians? It's one thing we need to look at. That phase is missing. I mean, under all regimes, we need to look at.
Once you want to do something, you don't listen to anybody else. It looks like often that's what happens. If you take e-levy, for example.
E-levy, I support e-levy, and I still support e-levy. And it's one area we also have to look at. Why do we take taxes? Now, it looks like taxes are demonic or demons in our country because MPP and this one is in government. It doesn't matter whether our fiscal space is due or not, don't bring any tax. It's something we can discuss later on. But from where I stand, that I have pretty much idea what entails, what the fiscal space entails, and how you can harmonize the elements to ensure growth and sustainability. We should be careful the way we condemn taxes. Maybe where we fall short is our inability to communicate and have the cascading effect so that people understand us and the usage of what we get. These are the areas I think I
mentioned that as an example because it didn't bring in what you had projected, woefully didn't get any close, and then in the process, many of the vendors, Momo vendors, lost their jobs, became unemployed, and added to all of the trouble.
In any case, thousands of companies or people had lost their jobs because of this COVID in the whole world, including Ghana. I mean, private sector, even before COVID, the taxes we were talking about, they had sacked over 40,000 people. The companies had collapsed. We're running almost 12 billion.
So this worsened it.
So it depends. Sometimes the long effect of, because your debt to GDP was moving to 100. And the only way to do is to get revenue generated internally, of course. So it has its pros and cons. But something, let's come back to the target. I think that the NDC guys, my brothers and sisters, were, as usual, displaying some of their propaganda way of handling things in our country. Either they wanted to set that low target so that the next budget, they will say that, we said we're growing 4.4, Now we are growing 4.5. Although that might be far below 5.7. Or, as my sister again said, maybe they are privy to underlying pieces of factors or information that I am not privy to. So based on that, they think going forward, this is the projection they have to set. In any case, almost all the targets they set, with the exception of, I think, is it gross foreign assets and current balance? I mean, I stand to be corrected. Almost all of them, they set targets below. But one thing that we fail to emphasize in our country is the exoneration, the vindication of our government, that when we were handing over power, we were growing 5.7, which was even higher than some quote 3.6, 3.4 in 2016. Debt to GDP 61.8. Then they go to rebase stuff. I think that one, sometimes we should also be very careful that we do politics with facts and figures. Because if you are certain targets below what you actually inherited or took over, somebody like me will take my time. Because maybe Dr. Attoforsen, I'm a very knowledgeable finance minister, when I say the people are attacking me, but I've worked with him on the finance committee and I know what he's made of. Probably he has pieces of information that all of us, we don't have. Other than that, if we are doing general analysis, then he'll be found wanted. Because the very economy that you say, hey, it was crazy, it was dead, I see you. Then you come out to tell us that the primary balance, fiscal balance, GDP, debt to GDP, all those figures, with the exception of inflationary rate, even that one have been reduced from 54.1 to about 23. Then somebody will tell you, no, the economy that MPP left for you was not, even though there are challenges still, was not what you portrayed. But something coming back.
That particular one, the ordinary person, the question they ask is, what do these figures mean for me? That you inherited an economy growing at 3 point something and you have taken it to 5.5% or something of GDP. What does that mean? Because I sit here and I can vividly recall that at the time that they were handing over, my 100,000 in my bank account meant something more than it means today. Today it means maybe 50,000 or less. Of course, we were not so broke that we were shut out of the capital market, that we couldn't borrow. This is where we are. So what do those figures mean?
Something, this question, I really, really like it. I think these are the areas we should pick and discuss ours. Let me tell you, the same indicators, when they went to 54.1, when things were getting out of hands, we're using the same indicators, bastardizing the government, which they were right. But when they are coming down, then what do they mean to us? There's this chorus or cliche that I've seen in our country, whether NDC or MPP in government. When the economic figures are doing well, they say they don't feel in their pocket. The people are right. But that doesn't mean MPP and DC, they are wrong. Maybe Doc is here. Our market, economic market or market economy is predominantly SME type. Because something, systematic risk index. It's an index that determines how practically your market or your companies are responding to economic performance. So once it is the defensive type, generally, that's how our economy is. When the economy moves 10%, they move slowly. There's this lag effect. So the people are right that sometimes the inflation is 10, but they don't readily feel that in their pocket. I hope you understand what I'm saying. As compared to the mostly aggressive sectors where the risk index is about 1, what it means is that once inflation goes 10, readily you fail because they have big and aggressive market areas. So these are the practical explanations that people should allow some of us who have pretty much idea about this thing to explain to them. But people will not accept any explanation. In any case, the issues such as even the DDEP, anybody that suffered is right in insulting the then government, attacking us. But the government had an uncontrollable situation. There wasn't any other alternative. Once there's a holdout, to the best of my understanding, is a situation where the issuer cannot perform his obligations in paying back. It's like I borrow from you. Something has happened, I can never pay. So we deal with the extension. Okay, I have to pay 4 years. Let's make it 6 years time. I'm paying 10 cedis every month. Let's make it 5.
Sort of making
so
the
I can
bad
pay.
debt.
You will not be happy. So when you're angry with me, you're right. But the situation there is that probably most appropriate method or approach that we should take.
Okay.
The point that I want to make about this whole thing, when it comes to cost of doing business and the unemployment issues, inflationary rate to make sure the standard of living is high, cost of living is down, I think we need to watch this thing. Something. There's a huge problem between fiscal space and the monetary space. Monetary space with respect to how Bank of Ghana manages the monetary policy. I'm not saying they are wrong. And how fiscal things go. Me, I always say I have big issues when they are even using inflationary targeted policy in controlling inflation. Because they look at the magnitude, the number. They don't look at the cost, whether it's from suppliers and cost push or demand pull, all those factors. But having said that, I think one thing that is very important is the policy consistency. Not every policy. That if these things are good for the country, just like the 1D1F. Unemployment is a big issue now. 1D1F offered us some good areas we could continue. What do? We need to appraise it, pick the good ones, and continue. The last bit that I want to say to Ghanaians, and what a gentleman who is not here said about, most of the times too, our ecosystem actors, our entrepreneurs, our businessmen, do they also, not all of them, but most of the time you see that they are not also competitive enough. If you like, let present president, His Excellency John Dramani Mahama, or Dr. Atufosi, give Ghanaians about 100 of them 1 million Ghana cedis each, interest-free after 2 years. Go and ask what has happened. So we should also include orientation, education, training, so that it's not just the money, it's not just the low inflationary rate, but the ability to understand and move away from this weak entrepreneurial ecosystem. Because we'll talk about government, that's the systematic risk factors, the major ones. What about the specific ones that the companies know how, the entrepreneur or the investors know how? How do they manage their value chains, operation? Do they really understand them? So we need to balance all these.
Thank you
so
very
we can
much.
have a very strong.
Now, let's listen to the finance minister again.
Mr. Speaker, the National Health Insurance will receive full allocation under the earmarked funds Capping and Realignment Act. Mr. Speaker, the Road Fund will receive full allocation under the earmarked fund and Capping and Realignment Act. Mr. Speaker, JNPC share of net carried and participating interest from 30, we will reduce the GNPC share of net carried and participating interest from 30% to 15% and fully restore transfers to GNPC under the earmarked fund and Capping Act. Right, Honorable Speaker, we'll be amending the Mineral Income and Investment Fund Act to ensure that 80% of the royalties originally maintained by MIF is transferred to the Consolidated Fund for Infrastructure Development. Right, Honorable Speaker, we will strengthen social protection through the implementation of new interventions such as the no academic fee policy for all first-year students in public tertiary institutions under the No Fee Stress Initiative. Mr. Speaker, it also includes the free tertiary education for persons with disability, free primary health care, the Ghana Medical Trust Care, otherwise known as Mahama Care, and free sanitary pads for schoolgirls.
And Sweeney, to some of these policy initiatives, key policy initiatives, we have the Women's Development Bank, 51.3 million seed money, assembly members, 100 million earmarked, capitation grant, 145.5 million, Akosombo Dam victims, 242.5 million, Ghana cedis, free sanitary pads, 292.4 million, free level 100, he mentioned, free fees for level 100, 499.8 million, free SHS, getting the biggest, allocation so far since its implementation, 3.5 billion, and NHIS, 9.9 billion. And, decoupling, or is it the uncapping? What's the strategy?
You see, Samson, I wanted to make a comment on the growth rate, but I think you have started well, so I'll take it from there and probably end with the growth rate. When I was listening to the finance minister, what came to my mind was the hope that I was expecting this budget to give many Ghanaians, especially our teeming youth, who are beginning to lose hope in our politics. They often say that during the political campaign season, politicians say anything and everything, especially when they are palatable and sweet, just so they win elections, and after that they renegotiate some of the things that they promised. So I was quite excited that this budget was eroding that perception by the way it captured some of the most important things that featured during the campaign period. For example, the jobs for 1 million coders made provision for, the e-levy abolished, the betting tax abolished, the Women Bank catered for, 51 million Ghana cedis. They say it is little, but clearly the finance minister again was correct when he said a seed capital. And there's a difference between seed capital and funds that is used to capitalize a bank. And again, that tells you that this is not just a tick off a box. This is a process that will be thoughtful and that will be pragmatic. And so you just don't throw money, without putting the structures in place to really make the impact that you are seeking to make. So when I was here listening to the finance minister and I heard him talk about the apprenticeship program, which was also quite, which was an issue that was quite embraced by the Ghanaian people, the farm mechanization centers, the free fee for first-year tertiary students, the primary healthcare, the sanitary parts. I was like, great. I mean, let us stem the tide when it comes to the erosion of confidence in us politicians, at least for once. And that is why I said earlier that this budget was responsive, because it was responding to the cries of Ghanaians. It was in the area of removal of e-levy, responding to the citizens' expectation. That is what the people wanted. They never really wanted e-levy to be passed in the first place. The data is there. Research showed how unpopular that e-levy was. Again, when you look at the attention that was given in this budget for the victims of the tidal wave in Qatar, I mean, that for me is a responsive budget. Unlike what we had before, where, even the former president chastised people for calling on him to attend to our compatriots who were really in need. And look, if you monitor the news coming from that place, it is a humanitarian crisis. I mean, elsewhere, it will be the major headlines every day on our major news portals elsewhere. But, you have people go to bed, wake up, a whole community is wiped out. And we live comfortably with it. So I was excited, and I think that was a way to respond to it by making provision for the continuation of the construction of the sea defense wall. Then, Samson, you look at the question of quality education. I have said repeatedly in the past that the only difference between the NDC's free SHS and the NPP's free SHS has always been about what to prioritize, quality or politics. Yes. So the NDC always said that because we needed to preserve quality, let's do it progressively so that we can get some of the challenges that we will encounter resolved as and when we roll it out. So quality was key. The NPP said, we have implemented it. It didn't matter if examination and passing of same was prioritized over quality of education and acquisition of knowledge. And this was demonstrated when the previous government prioritized the provision of past questions and mathematical sets, and for years did not provide textbooks for students. It tells you the focus of the government. Pass your exams and let us brag with it. We don't really care if you are knowledgeable, just pass your exams. You know, so when you have in this budget, the finance minister make provision for the provision of textbooks for the different categories of students from the basic to the secondary level, it tells you where the attention is going to be. And then he also uncaps the Get Fund, which immediately made available about 4.2 billion Ghana cedis, which in my view, if properly utilized, will lead to, you know, infrastructure explosion, which is key and very much required in many of our educational institutions to cater for the increasing numbers that we are seeing. So that kind of pragmatism, you know, cannot be glossed over, it cannot be ignored. And again, another thing I thought was very sensitive was the decision of government to still maintain the teacher training allowances and also the nursing training allowances as we prepare to replace it with the student loan trust. I mean, because the policy decision has always been to strengthen the student loan trust fund, put more funds there so that we can migrate students from the teacher training colleges and nursing training colleges to the student loan trust where every other tertiary student gets support from.
You're stating that these allowances will eventually disappear and be replaced with loans.
That is the NDC's policy. But I'm telling you that it is in our manifesto. I'm saying that clearly the decision to maintain it is because of the pragmatism of the government. Is the recognition that these students really need support. They need help. And so not until you have an equally, support, an equal support in place, not until you have an equal support in place, that is enhanced, that will serve the same purpose, you do not take this out.
But the minority is not wrong when they state that you intend to scrap it, the allowances.
But you see, the point is that Samson, I've been in the educational field for a very long time. And I don't think that it is fair to ascribe it to just one political party. I was the National Vice President of Teacher Trainees Association of Ghana. And at the time, Professor Emia Okonfi was the Minister of Education. And we led a charge to, elevate teacher training colleges to the tertiary level as student leaders at the time. We had meetings with the government at the time. And the discussion on the table was that, look, if you want to be like all tertiary students, you are going to be treated like tertiary students. And how are tertiary students treated in this country? And so the preparations started from that point. And there are documents to show that the preparations started from that point to elevate, these institutions to tertiary level and to also extend same courtesies
at the same time, you're also offering some free fees at the tertiary level.
Yes, and that will cut across. I mean, so that will cut across for all tertiary students. Free. And Samson, this is something, again, that I introduced in my constituency, and I'm very excited that it's becoming a national, policy. Look, clearly, you and I know that the most difficult part for students in need to get education at the tertiary level is the admission. Because our institutions are such that once students get in, they have a human face when it comes to defaulting in school fees. And so they will give them several reminders. And sometimes it is the last resort when they walk them out of exams hall. And even in some cases, they don't walk them out, but they withhold their certificates. So the most important thing is how to get in the door. And so when you get that resolve and get every student in, you are to some extent guaranteed that they will go through the course. And somehow, with an enhanced student loan trust that is available, that the problem of paying fees shouldn't be a problem. And so I think that is what informed the decision to introduce this policy. Samson, again, you look at capitation grant being increased, you look at the school feeding program getting an increase in the budget. Then you look at the assemblymen who are also going to be catered for, and the free education, tertiary education for people with disability. Clearly, this was a budget that was a sensitive one and paying attention to the vulnerable in our society and the need to support them to all play their part. And apart from the GET fund and capping, you also will notice that in the road sector, we are told, for example, that on commitment basis alone, we are indebted to a tune of about 100 billion Ghana cedis, commitment basis. Certificates that are due for payment is about 20 billion, 21 billion Ghana cedis. Now, you have a GET fund that was capped, and a road fund that was capped. And because of that, the ministry did not undertake a lot of road maintenance. So even existing routes have deteriorated over the years. And so if you have a finance minister who says, I'm uncapping it, so that I can make immediately available 2.8 billion Ghana cedis, even though it's a drop in the mighty ocean, it is an important one, because everywhere you go in this country, the requests for roads, are just overwhelming. Okay. And they are so because they are, critical to our development. Okay. And let me wrap up. And maybe the uncapping part, the point I need to make before I wrap up is that I think that it also shows a government that does not want to centralize our expenditure. That says that, look, the 80% of District Assembly's common fund should go to the district, so that the district chief executives, together with the elected assembly members, who will now be supported, will take the decisions that matter to them as to how to
wrap up quickly. I want Dr. Priscilla Chumesi to, she was making some notes. I wanted to make whatever responses she wants to make quickly. Okay. She, together with Dr. Kingsley, Kwabranya too. Yeah.
Okay, Samson, so on the issue of growth, I'll just wrap up on that. You see, you ask the right questions. When growth is posted, I'm not an economist. I'm not an actuarial scientist. I'm not, I'm not. But you see, like law, they tell you that numbers can tell different stories depending on the one who is narrating it. So for growth of 5.7%, when I was listening, I was looking out for whose growth is it? At what cost is this growth? And the statistical service tells us that this growth is driven by data. What does it mean? So, for example, you have mining, you have trade, then you have construction. In the construction sector, you are told that this growth is as a result of price of goods and items that are used for construction. So cement prices, iron rod prices impact this growth. Now, if you produce more houses, that would have been impactful growth. But if you are producing less houses at a higher cost, and that has impacted your growth in this way, then what is there? Whose growth is it? What cost is this growth?
Thank you,
It's important that this feature in the conversation.
Yes, Doc.
Okay, thank you, Samson. I think that one issue I must also indicate in the creativity of this budget is the uncapping of some of the stipulated funds. But that said, I know also that because of the lack of flexibility in our budgets, that was the wisdom behind putting a cap on some of these things. And so, for example, you know that government total revenue is usually used up in compensation and earmark payments. And basically, once interest payments come in, nothing is left at all for capital expenditure and others. And so on capping it, it sounds great, but we also know that the surplus after the cap, for example, with GET Fund and HIL, went into the consolidated fund to fund some initiatives, running of government business, goods and services and other things and capital expenditure. Now it's being decentralized. And so that, for me, it's some of the real risks that exist within the budget, particularly in keeping with the primary balance, for example, because now those funds are no longer coming. And particularly, I think once these are being done, we need to keep an eye on the procurement law, because now you are decentralizing these, and if effective regulation is not happening over there, then it means that you may not gain much out of it. And particularly also for the use of the tax refund account to support the gap that the e-levy removal is creating. I think that is creative accounting that has been done. It's not any additional funds that is coming in, but it exists to be used towards the gap that is created. And that is also indicated is because a lot of people are not filing their taxes, and so they are not going for whatever they have overpaid over time. As the years go by and people become quite aware of some of these tax laws and begin to file, then it means that the refund account may not necessarily have the excesses that we are basing the e-levy on. And so for that matter, policymakers would have to look for a more organic way of trying to generate revenue on that. Right. I am excited about the free sanitary pad for girls in primary and secondary schools. A lot of people downplay it, men think it's funny, but when you go to rural areas, some girls really struggle at the time of the month because they don't have menstrual products. And for me, if the government really means business with employment generation and all that, I think that they should source those sanitary products locally.
Okay.
It should not be a contract given to someone to import, to bring the product, so that we build local capacity and create jobs.
And usually
well.
there's someone will be some party business.
Exactly.
Let me bring Dr. Kwabena Yakwotu on now. And there are people who are also excited about the at least 80% of the district assembly common funds must go directly to the district assemblies for them to determine what they want to use it for. A departure from the very bad situation where procurements were being done in Accra for them, and there were procurements that they didn't need. Sanitation procurements, all sorts of fumigation procurements, they didn't need, and all their money was being used in Accra, and they didn't have access to the money. This minister says at least, that is just the least, 80% of the monies for the district assemblies must go to them directly. Dr. Kwabena Yakwotu, what do you say?
I think it's a laudable idea. And to that extent, I'll move on to disagree with my professor. You see, when we were fighting for Get Fund, there was already a VAT rate in existence. And we went on the street, campaign, dialogue, and government agreed that you can have a 2.5 percentage point on the VAT to fund education. So if government needs additional money, they should not touch the Get Fund, because that one, we fought for it for a specific purpose. And I've heard this idea of the rigidity of the budget, which meant that we need to cap the Get Fund and other, the NHIS and all of that. I think that government must explore other avenues for reducing the rigidity in the budget, for raising more revenues for its own purposes. But these were specifically done to achieve, what do you call it, education infrastructure, support education at all levels. It was not meant for general government business. So I support the uncapping. And I also support the idea that the district assemblies must have the freedom to choose what they use with the district assemblies common fund. So I support that initiative. Having said that, something, I need to respond to a few things. And next, I would suggest that in this program, we don't allow the politicians to talk too much. Because I've been listening to them anyway.
So this what's happened. Normally they have a lot to say. So Stephen spoke for almost 13 minutes. Suhini spoke for 13 minutes plus a few seconds. Dr. Priscilla Chumesi, the 2 times she has spoken put together brings us to about 8 minutes or so. And let's see what you also do. You did about 4 minutes and when you spoke first.
So if you look at the budget on paragraph, I think 118.
Okay.
The finance minister says, Mr. Speaker, our immediate task is to reset our nation to restore good governance, reduce the excruciating suffering of our people, and set our country on a trajectory of economic transformation. Something, this gives me hope. And me hope, scanning through the budget, you realize that the finance minister's perspective is that even though this economy is in trouble, he uses ICU, intensive care unit, he thinks that you cannot get out of the trouble by taxing the people. So the reduction in the taxes or the abolition of those taxes are important. Of course, and I will agree with Dr. Chumesi, we should also realize that not all taxes are really meant or ought to meant for revenue generation. So for example, betting tax. Is there no problem when so many of our youth are engaged in any productive business but are actually in the cafes betting? So taxes can also be used to modify behavior and to nudge people from a certain course to a course we deem important or appropriate. Something Dr. Chumesi made an interesting point, and that point leads me to think that just like all other budgets in this country, we have a fundamental problem that we still have not read. He says that, Dr. Chumesi says that when you get the macroeconomic fundamentals right, all other things will follow through. And this has been the fundamental ethos of our budget since structural adjustment. So grow the economy, reduce inflation. And that is the reason why we don't target employment. Once you grow the economy, reduce inflation, the exchange rate volatility comes down, employment will be created. Okay. This has to be a fallacy, and which must be confronted. That is the reason why in the last 40 years of positive economic growth, unemployment still remains a challenge and is growing in this country. Okay. It is important that we aggressively tackle the root challenges of this economic malaise. And then Dr. Amwa made the point that the Bank of Ghana doesn't actually explain to us the real cause for the persistent inflation we suffer in this country. They do explain. Actually, when you are using interest rate to curb inflation, the explanation is that inflation is a monetary phenomenon. It is because there's excess money in the system which you need to mop up. To the contrary, we think that inflation is a supply side problem. That is the reason why during the month of harvesting, when you have so much yam on the market, inflation tends to come down. So if that is the appropriate explanation, then we need to invest more in agriculture. We need to invest more to support our farmers to produce more food, because we also then can suffer imported inflation if we are importing all food into this country. But we do not have to end there. We have to move from the farm gate to the factories so that people and entrepreneurs will begin to process the things that we produce in this country, so that our industrialization effort will not place raw materials, will not be based on raw materials that are imported from outside this country, because that could be catastrophic for the economy. Something for us to move from the farm gate to the factory, where people are turning our raw materials into finished product, we also need policy support. So, Dr. Amwa, you are right. If you were to give entrepreneurs, Stephen Amwa, Doc, if you are to give entrepreneurs 2 million cedis each, interest-free, no other constraints, they may not achieve much. Because whilst you are asking them to produce poultry product, you have also opened the floodgate for frozen poultry chicken product to come from the Netherlands and also from the UK. Okay. Those factories, they have been in the business of producing poultry product for hundreds of years. They are a little bit more cheaper. They are well packaged, so the Ghanaian will go for those things. So something the point I make that our industries needs policy support. We need to look at our trade policy. It is not help.
Thank you. Hold on for me and listen to Atuforsen again. And I'm coming to you, Steve. Listen to Atuforsen again.
Right, Honorable Speaker. The Bank of Ghana is also seeking an amount of 53 billion Ghana cedis as bailout to be able to address their negative equity challenge that they face. Mr. Speaker, as part of the measures to address these mounting accumulated arrests, we have commissioned an audit of these arrest payments and guarantee value for money before a penny will be paid. Mr. Speaker, before a penny will be paid, we'll commit to do that arrest. Right Honorable Speaker, in addition to the 67.5 billion cedis in arrest, the validation process also revealed that MDAs have awarded contract to the tune of a minimum 194 billion Ghana cedis. Mr. Speaker, this amount represents 16.5% of GDP as at the end of 2024, with the road sector again alone accounting for 100 billion Ghana cedis. Mr. Speaker, most of these contractors and most of these contracts were awarded without commencement certificate and authorization. Mr. Speaker, this is in blatant violation of the Public Financial Management Act, Act 921. Mr. Speaker, the financial sector still struggles even after spending 30.3 billion in the financial sector cleanup exercise by end 2024. This includes 26.9 billion Ghana cedis after spending this amount in the banking sector. Mr. Speaker, as we speak, the financial sector is still struggling, and the financial sector will require 10.45 billion Ghana cedis to address the financial sector legacy issues and emerging risk. In addition, Mr. Speaker, an amount of 2.2 billion Ghana cedis is required to fully capitalize the National Investment Bank and the Agricultural Development Bank of Ghana.
So we're wrapping up at this point, and my guests will do us a favor by not doing beyond 3 minutes each, and let's know what your biggest takeaway is, your biggest disappointment of the budget is. I don't know how many of you were aware that the banking sector cleanup, we spent in excess of 30 billion, and we need some 10.45 billion extra to be able to do it properly. Yes, Steve.
Something, because of a lot of things have been said, add 1 minute to my I think I have to greet my constituents. I nearly forgot because they made it possible for me to be here. So in Shiaso constituency, I greet everyone there. But let's also get certain issues or some issues right. My minister should have also spoken about the fact that the financial institutions, as of 2024, they have started making a lot of profits. So whatever decision our government took, it yielded a very positive and good result. And it had even contributed to the fact that the economy has started doing well. We need to get that. This issue about somebody was doing free SHS, it's not true. And it's never, ever in any way. You remember the same thing happened when we were doing national health insurance. Even passing the bill in Parliament, they worked out. When it became exercise, then they're like, oh, we started in Techima. Meanwhile, I was Roman Catholic that started this there. And 2, go and check results since we implemented national health insurance. Free SHS, whether they are doing well or not. Whatever they talk about quality, they are all cliches and political gimmicks just to downplay the benefits that Ghanaians have derived from free SHS. I don't want to. Can I? Boss, can I finish, please?
All right.
Look, women banking is also one of the issues. Do we normally conduct investment appraisals on some of these policies? What does the act or the law say? It says that you need about 400 million as a seed capital to be allowed to start a bank. I think they got it wrong. They should come back and correct that mistake because they can't keep on trying to defend.
Remember, they intend to tear up the banking sector so that not all banks require the same amount as seed capital as their capital.
But have they done that?
Not yet.
Once it's not done, you're a lawyer. Once you've not done that amendment, you cannot do this.
They haven't set up the bank yet.
But they told Ghanaians they are setting up with 51 million.
Yes.
So was that right?
Does it mean that maybe they will change the rules before they do it?
So if the maybe hasn't come, are they doing the right thing? We need to adhere to the existing law until it's amended. So is it that they were deceiving Ghanaians? Or they just want to let Ghanaians think that we said this on the platform and this is what we want to do? And I find this very
They said seed money. So which part of the law is broken?
No. What is the difference between the capital you need to start a bank and the seed money? What's the difference?
At the point of starting the bank.
What is the difference?
Are you at the point of starting the bank? Do you know if they will make money into it?
But what they said did not
I said 3 minutes, but that doesn't mean I won't ask you a question.
Thank you. But that does not qualify us to start a bank. That is what I want us to make clear. If they want to amend the law and bring it to 50 million, that's fine. Because that was just a political talk.
Okay.
You don't have to. And then something, we need to also take this thing very, very seriously.
Your time is actually up. Yes. Let's hear you, Sohini.
Yeah, so the difference between seed fund and the funds to capitalize a bank, Samson, is that the seed fund is the initial capital of investment made at the very beginning of a business venture.
It does not qualify.
Used to cover basic expenses such as market research, product development, and initial operating costs. That's seed fund. The funds needed to capitalize a bank, these are funds required to meet legal and regulatory capital requirements to operate as a bank. The difference is very clear. And that is why the finance minister was clear when he said this was seed funds. Now, I think that because I don't have time, but it's quite exciting. You can take it on a lighter note. I'm happy that we have come a full circle with this sanitary pads thing. I recall when, it was first contemplated under the free secondary the improvement of secondary schools, existing secondary schools. That was when the government was building community day schools and had this World Bank facility. And this matter came up. I mean, I was scandalized at some of the things that I heard. President Mahama was caricatured as a devil who even wanted, it's too early in the morning, blood of girls to do rituals. And people demonstrated how could we get a loan to get sanitary pads. I'm so excited that we have come full circle and everybody has come to agree that it was indeed a brilliant idea and the provision is very, very necessary. And I'm happy that the provision was made for it in this budget. Now, when you talk about the banking sector reforms and the amount of money we still have to spend just so that we can finish the whole process, you can't help but ask why we didn't just use about 5 billion or so that was required to solve the problem, but chose this very expensive route, which in the end also contributed to the economic crisis that we had that led to the DDEP. Then you cannot also miss the fact that sinking fund that was started by the previous government so that we could be in a position to refinance our debt when they are due. At the time that the NDC was leaving office in 2016, we left about $300 million plus in the dollar account, only to inherit $64,000, not even up to $100,000. And yet you have a mountain debt that you have to pay, especially commitments that you have to meet this year. I am particularly excited, Samson, because you're asking us for what excites us most in this budget, and because we don't have time, about the growth and sustainability levy that has been increased from 1% to 3%. And if we had time, I would have walked you through the gold proceeds and the profits that these multilateral companies are making as a result of, the increase in gold prices and how much we are missing out and how this, increase from 1% to 3% is going to lead to a lot of, revenue for the government. And so there are ways that you can increase revenue of government without necessarily burdening the already burdened Ghanaian taxpayer, especially the ordinary person.
Right.
Finally, I'm also very excited about the 1.5% withholding tax on winning from unprocessed gold.
Thank you.
I'm very excited because that is also an issue.
Thank you. Your time is up.
Many of our local gold
let's hear from Doc. Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you, Samson. I think that one issue that we've consistently hammered on is the need for us to generate enough resources from our mineral resources, really. And so the Growth and Sustainability Act is a great initiative that would bring in needed revenue. I don't also agree with Honorable Suhini on the removal of the 1% withholding tax. And so, for example, consistently, we know that our economy is highly informal. And so you see that by this policy, we are sparing informal sector actors within that space. I think the justification for that point is to reduce the incentive for smuggling so that people would willingly offer. I think that we should use policies to cater for that rather than let that also source of revenue also go. And particularly on free SHS, I am excited about the fact that at least now it appears that the funding is sorted out because of the uncapping of the GET fund. But for me, I still insist that the policy needs to be targeted. The wholesale approach is not the right way to go. I know that the National Education Forum also made some propositions. I think that they should target it and make sure that the people who can pay are in a position to pay. And so the program would be for the vulnerable and the people that need it. My last point is also on the issue of the misalignment, particularly. It came up at the National Economic Dialogue that currently it shows that Treasury bill rates are being drawn down. And so government is making some savings on there in terms of debt servicing. But the fact that so long as inflation rate does not come down, that kind of activity can also potentially put pressure on the currency, especially when you look at individual actors. So for example, if the Treasury bill rate is at 19% and inflation rate is at 23% currently, then indeed you see that the premium that people are getting is negative at the end of their investment. And that does not sit well in terms of the environment, particularly when you are focusing on promoting growth through employment generation. You would want to look at cost of credit. And so in that area, I think that coordination between fiscal actors and monetary policy actors is critical so that that kind of misfit does not go and put a lot of pressure through currency substitution, and then the currency begins to struggle. And so in all, I think that we are hopeful. The propositions that are made in the budget look great, but like we said, the implementation is the main issue. And then we hope to see, hopefully by mid-year, we'll see how things pan out.
Thank you very much. Yes, Dr. Kobrenyaku too.
Okay, thank you. So I'm also excited by the growth and stabilization levy. In fact, I would have wished I had gone from 1% to 5%. We are making so much revenues from gold, but we are only just recording it. And it's important that it reflects in national revenues. The gold is ours, and we cannot just be making 8-10% of the gold proceeds, whilst those that came here to invest take the remaining 90%. So I'm excited about that. My assumption, when I go to paragraph 85, page 85 for the budget, there are a number of things that excite me and which I'm sure will engage those of us in the industrial relations space. So, for example, government says that it will review promotion policies in the public sector. We are excited about it. We want to engage government on it. Review the steady leave policies in the public sector. We don't know the details, but we want to engage on it. Establish succession planning schemes in the public sector to ensure that post-retirement contracts in the public sector are reduced. We are excited about it and we want to engage it. And then establish continuous professional development programs. Things that will help promote productivity in the public sector. We are excited about it. But if you come down further, it says, for example, government will want to revisit the implementation of the law on the unification of pensions. Something I've said it on this program before, that we have a pensions architecture where those who don't contribute towards their pension earn better pension than those of us who contribute. So, for example, you have a whole stream of public sector officials who are retiring on their salary, even though they made no contribution to their pension. Those of us who contribute to a SNIT for 40 years are going home with 500 Ghana cedis per month. So we need to revisit this issue. We are excited about it. The government is also saying that it will dialogue with social partners to come up with a legal framework to consolidate conflicting laws on conditions of service. So today, You say that you want to harmonize pay, but there are so many conflicting laws in respect of pay. And it's important that we address it. Finally, government says that it will revisit the issue of revising the single spine pay policy. I think that this needs to be brought in. We need to revisit the issue of revising, of adjusting or reviewing the entire public sector pay regime. We cannot have a public sector where somebody takes 500 cedis and another person takes 150,000 cedis. These are issues that affect morale. These are issues that affect productivity. And it's important that government has made provision for it, that it will revisit them. Organized labor and those of us in the industrial relations space will be very, very much.
If your work is commensurate to 500 cedis, what's the problem?
So, is there any CEO in the public sector, the struggling CEOs, the public sector entities that are making losses? Look at Cocoa Board. Check the Cocoa Board CEO's pay. Does it commensurate with the losses that they are making in the Cocoa Board? You get the point I'm making? You have loss-making public sector entities that are paying themselves, their CEOs and their other staff.
The president says those that are making losses should get ready either to be merged or to be collapsed. So that's a good signal, right?
We agree with that. You see, those that are making losses, sometimes it's pure mismanagement. So if you look critically at it, they don't need to be collapsed. If you can take out the political interference and subject them to critical APIs, they should be able to.
Thank you very much, sir. And now let me share a couple of your messages with you, and we will go to discuss the matter of the removal of the Inspector General of Police, George Akufo Dampare, replaced with Christian Tete Yohonu. And people say for the very first time, there's some jubilation among sections of police officers over this removal. Why is that so? Some have actually pointed to some of the things they say are his sins. And as you heard me in my introduction, some of them are outright defamatory, unless they are in fact true. We will look at them, find out whether he lost this job because he failed, or this is success that has been sacrificed on, political convenience, or so to speak. Nanaya Sapong, he's a lawyer. He says that we are speaking too much English and having too many PhD holders push having science. We need to boost trade through import substitution, through industry and manufacturing. We cannot have this without the agri sector. Modern technology agriculture push. Our concentration over the years has been on cash crops, which is wrong. We have to do food because that will reduce drastically our imports. 3, all of this can happen when there is available, affordable, and accessible credit for both agriculture and industry. And finally, our economy should be made entrepreneurial friendly by deliberate government-engineered market. This should be a deliberate and well coordinated. The policies are too many and confusing. We, the people, and they themselves, the technical experts. Well, thanks for your view. I'm sharing more of the views that listeners are sharing with you. Dr. Gideon Boako, he says that he's the MP for Tano North constituency. He says minimum capital requirement for establishing universal banks and development finance institutions. He gives what they entail and says, I fully support the initiative to establish the Women's Bank and sincerely hope that the government implements it effectively in line with the expectations of many Ghanaians. For the purpose of public education and clarification, the following insights into the minimum paid up capital requirement for the establishment of universal banks and development bank will be useful. Minimum capital requirement for universal banks. This is in accordance with Section 28(1) of the Banks and Specialized Deposit-Taking Institutions Act. The Bank of Ghana revised the minimum paid-up capital for both existing banks and new entrants, effective 11 September 2017. The capital minimum requirement increased from 120 million to 400 million, as specified in a notice that they issued. So he's making some important point. He says it's important to emphasize that according to the notice, no pre-operating permit will be granted unless the applicant meets the required paid-up capital threshold and the original source of capital is deemed acceptable. Thank you. Many more of you sending your messages to us through Twitter or X. Excellence Reigns says the budget was full of hope because 5 nuisance taxes were removed. Now investors too are happy because they can back and do business in Ghana. Peter Dazi says, I absolutely agree that a free sanitary path for primary and secondary school girls by government should be sourced locally to boost entrepreneurship and job creation in the country. Smoothlow says, Dr. Chumesi Bafor shouldn't say that about the betting tax. I was expecting this. Does she know how much one loses before he gets to win? Betting is not a gain business. It is not like they will use the betting tax for any useful thing if they collect it. All right, that's a different issue about how your taxes are issued. Abdullahi Pegla says the budget statement read by the finance minister on behalf of the president is at variance with the criminally managed economy comment he made about the previous administration. Why didn't he take away the COVID levy as promised? COVID levy is gone, no? COVID levy is not. Okay. But which one is gone? COVID levy. E-levy. Okay. But there's no a statement that COVID levy is going because there have to be processes. Exactly. Right. But it's gone. It's deemed as gone. Okay.
But it is still good. What is happening is that the finance minister actually made a VAT bill.
Okay.
You know, on I think on Tuesday, on
all right.
Wednesday, he laid the VAT bill for the processes to begin.
Okay. A couple more.
I think he was retaining it.
Kwesi Nzema says that most policies in our sectors are good, but the challenge is how to move from policy to practice, implementation. Lip Loop says, I disagree with Stephen Amwa. This is the first budget that people have really been happy about. I never seen so many people feel with joy over any budget in the last 16 years. Really? Do you remember the first budget of Ken OFORI-ATTA? Yeah. This budget is the only budget that has been people-centered. And Nyavo says, referencing Joe Jackson, quote, overall, the only thing you can complain about in this budget is that there were not enough biblical quotes, end quotes. Isaac Riggs says, any budget that does not target employment is a hopeless one. 4 years and counting, and this country, the budget fails to tackle unemployment. Which country is this? And finally, N. Bonsa says, implementation is critical in any budget. A budget is like a plan over which you have control. But what are your strategies for implementation? Without a viable strategy, the budget is as nothing as anything. Thank you very much for all your messages. I've received several others. I'll try and see if I can share a couple more before. So we'll take a break here. We'll be right back with my next set of guests joining the two politicians to answer the questions about the removal of Dampare replaced with Christian Tete Yohonu.
Not necessarily, except that if you say his deputy in charge of operation, I mean, he would work up to the IGP. But the fundamental question is, are we going to see yet another appointment of a deputy IGP responsible for administration or what? If not, it was unnecessary to say his Deputy Inspector General of Police in charge of operations. That is my worry. Because what I do know is that the position of Deputy IGP is one slot. In the past, we've had some people occupy that position before.
Ladies and gentlemen, we're going to demonstrate to you the superior properties of Flamingo paint as compared to other paint brands on the market. We take equal quantities of Flamingo paint and this ordinary paint. We then dilute them with water. And now, let the test begin. The gentleman on the left is going to apply the ordinary paint, and the gentleman on my right will use the Flamingo superior paint. As you can clearly see, Flamingo has the obvious better hiding. Furthermore, Flamingo has painted a much larger area. You know, one bucket of Flamingo paint is equal to several buckets of any other paint brand on the market. Flamingo paint is made with superior formulation to give superior durability, superior hiding, superior coverage. Flamingo paint, simply superior.
Have you been to Aqua Safari lately? Let me share my experience with you at the new Aqua Safari Resort. When you arrive, you're greeted by warm smiles and introduced to your 24-hour butler who already has your itinerary sorted. Enjoy water sports activities like jet ski rides, kayaking, water sliding, flyboarding, and castanet fishing. You can even have your lunch here on the boat cruise. Experience horseback riding, tennis, and some golfing amongst a host of other activities. Let the tour guides take you through the sceneries of the Volta River, the mangrove forest, the friendliness of the animals, local and exotic birds, while you pet and feed them. You can have this large space for your conferences, corporate retreats, and so many activities as part of the package. We chose to have our breakfast with a beautiful sunrise right in front of our cabin. We had an amazing experience and I can't wait to return for more.
Visit Aqua Safari Eco Resort in Ghana, bringing you closer to nature.
For decades, we have helped businesses connect with their trade partners all over the globe. From Ghana to Burkina Faso, Côte d'Ivoire, Benin, Togo, Senegal, China, Morocco, France, Netherlands, and many other countries. We have made it possible to bring Ghana to the world. We have brought small and medium businesses closer to their customers across the regions in Ghana with our SME support facilities. We have brought relief and smiles to the faces of families with our employee personal loans. With our cutting-edge technology and digital support, we take the burden of complex thinking off you, making life simple. That is who we are, as close as a partner. Bank of Africa. We are indeed the African bank with the global reach.
You're strong and you're tough. Syntax tank, syntax tank. Ladies and gentlemen, I beg you, check your tongue and get syntax. SINTEX. Wait, you're just over 25 years. We are made in Ghana water storage solution. You were green, you were blue, colors in there. They're great. That's it, your mom free water. We have over 400 agents nationwide. Just Ghana Finance, Find us on social media, Syntax Ghana. Not nominate here. Say Giovanni, Syntax, I need you in this community. And it's that simple. I will be there myself. Syntax Ghana page. All right, so just like that, we're wrapping up inside Tessie. Syntax Tank! Hey, strong! Hey, strong!
One critical area that requires immediate attention is the relationship between the police service and the communities in which they serve. Public trust in law enforcement is essential. Without it, effective policing becomes difficult. The concept of community policing must be strengthened. The police must be seen not as an intimidating force, but as a partner in crime prevention, safety, and development. Officers who serve and protect with empathy, fairness, and respect for human rights are respected in society. Mr. IGP, your role will also involve rooting out corruption within the service. Corruption in law enforcement undermines justice and weakens public confidence in our security agencies. Additionally, I want to emphasize the importance of improving the welfare of officers under your command.
This leadership position transcends mere title. It embodies a solemn responsibility that demands unwavering vigilance, integrity, and the ability to make decisions that safeguard the safety, security, and the well-being of our citizens and beyond. Your Excellency, I approach this responsibility with the utmost seriousness, fully recognizing the weight of expectations accompanying this role. In alignment with the transformation and modernization of the service, I pledge to uphold the values, traditions, and culture of the Ghana Police Service, consistent with the resetting agenda of Your Excellency the President. In this regard, the guiding principles will include discipline and respect for seniority.
Discipline and respect for seniority in the police. Christian Tete Yohonu, over 40 years under his belt, working with the Ghana Police Service. He's the new face now and the new boss at that place. Newsfile is brought to you by Bank of Africa, as strong as a group and close as a partner. MTN, everywhere you go. Ashesi University, educating ethical and entrepreneurial leaders for Africa. Robert & Sons Optical Services, your comprehensive eye care service provider for 33 plus years. My Way Insurance, dial *165# on the MTN to join My Way Insurance today. DBS Industries, roofing, Papa Fie, Flamingo Paint, simply superior. Syntex Tank, it's strong, it's tough, and Activa International Insurance. Our clients are passion. Yes, so let's talk a mixture of law, policy, purely constitutional matters, because the presidency issued a statement under the hand of Felix Kwachi Ofosu, and he said, pursuant to certain provisions of the Constitution, the president had decided to pick the Christian Tete Yohonu to take over office as an IGP. And talking about the Constitution quickly, the Constitution Review Committee, the Secretariat of the Constitution Review Committee, wants you to know that they are doing the national validation zonal engagements, and these are taking place in these 8 different locations. There's a Zone 1, which is Accra, April 7 to 8. Tamale, Zone 2, Tamale and Bolga together, April 10 to 11. Zone 3 is Wa, April 14 to 15. Zone 4 is Sunyani, April 22 to 23. Zone 5, Kumasi, April 25 to 26. Zone 6 is Takrady and Cape Coast together, April 29 to 30. And Zone 7, Koforidua, May 5 to 6. Then Zone 8 is Ho, May 8 to 9. You can make your submissions. If you have memoranda to submit to them to change some parts of the Constitution, take it to their offices fiscally at President Annex, adjacent Ministry of Communications, Abdul Diouf Road, Ridge, Accra, or you could do it electronically by 2 submissions@constitutionreviewgh.org. Submissions@constitutionreviewgh.org. They also have an interactive website for online submissions and public engagement, which is www.constitutionreview.org. Thank you very much. Now, as I announce my next set of guests, they are ready. And so let's see how we go about looking at the IGP's matter. Dr. Stephen Amoah is still here, former Deputy Minister for Finance and MP for Nshaiso. Alhassan S. Suhini is here, Deputy Minister for Roads and Highways and MP for Tamale North. We're joined by Professor Kwesi Ening, Security Consultant, Professor Bafo Ajimandria, former UN Governance Advisor, and Genevieve Partington, who is Country Director, Amnesty International. Let me begin from Zoom. Genevieve, Amnesty International, thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you also for having me. Good morning.
Great. You have had occasion as Amnesty to issue statements complaining about IGP Dampare. Are you joining the celebration over his removal?
Well, first, good morning to all listeners. I wouldn't consider it as a personal thing. You would know that with human rights organizations and the police, we've always had a very nuanced relationship. The dynamics have always been different, regardless of whoever is IGP. And we are bound to not agree on certain issues. I wouldn't say it was very difficult to meet the police leadership while Dr. Dampare was in the lead as IGP. It was very difficult. We had challenges. I know you were aware of a documentary that we came out with on protests in Ghana and the impact and the history of protests. We reached out, for example, to the police leadership several times to request that they take part in the documentary, and we just never heard back from them. It was always, we'll get back to you, we'll get back to you. We even delayed launching the documentary so that we can get their feedback, but feedback was never given. And to be honest, whenever we had hosted programs for Amnesty, the police were always present, actually. Just that, like I said, dealing with leadership was a very different dynamic. And you can tell that, with security forces, it's always been like that with human rights organizations. We will definitely agree on some things and disagree on others. So that was, it's expected.
How much of what you are hearing now is what you knew about Dr. Kufu Dampare? Last week, I did my take and I mentioned Dr. Dampare in there and asked why he was being, removed, and if anything that he was doing that somebody didn't like or the appointing authority doesn't like, couldn't they give him a tour of sort and say, we want you to do A, B, C, D, and if you are doing 1, 2, 3 wrong, we want you to stop. And some police officers really came at me, sent me messages. Some really attacked me that I was advocating for him to be kept, and they didn't want him. I disagreed with them. I said, I don't share your views that removing people is the way, removing him is the way to solve any problem. Some of the issues that were listed, I've heard some of them in the public domain as well. And I've mentioned, some of them appear outright defamatory unless they are true. How many of the things you are hearing are stuff that you knew about him to be his sins for which he must fall?
Well, for me, I think every government that comes in always kind of replaces the security forces later on as they proceed. So I guess it was expected, regardless of his performance. I had a feeling he would be replaced anyway. Most of the things I heard, I cannot say they are true or untrue. The media, will catch on to things. I've been caught several times in the media space with very untrue stories, for example. So sometimes sifting the information is very important. I wouldn't in any way want to attack his personality, because at the end of the day, being a head of security forces is a very, very big
So you hold on there. I'll return to you again to ask you why you expected that he would be removed anyway. Why should that be read? If in fact he was performing as a section of the public will agree that when he came in, it didn't matter who you are. He was arresting the MPs where they would not like it. But once they were doing wrong, he was arresting them. He will not allow you to get away because you are MP. The Constitution says we are all equal before the law and must be treated equally. Steve, Atacha, who headed the committee that had his issue, has spoken, and he says you will be shocked on alleged dossier. You'll be shocked about the dossier on Dampare that was presented to Akufo-Addo. What did you guys know? Oliver Bakavomawa says, I have never seen a dishonest Bible-touting individual like Akufo Dampare. Other people have said things, including Paul Admochire. I can't repeat that here. Yes.
I think I am one person that over the years, I wish I had my exclusive right to ask the entire Ghanaian community and those in power to allow some sections or institutions in our country appoint their own heads. That's my opinion. I could be wrong. When it comes to the judiciary and then security and maybe others, so that this political interference wouldn't be that much. But we should also understand the fact that the powers that the president is exercising has been conferred on him by a constitution law. Article 202(1) talks about who appoints the IGP. And then the 3, that is clause 3, also gives the president the discretion to do that. So the president, in the first place, is acting in line with the constitution. That one we need to accept. We cannot run away from that. Then we move to the other margins of what is going on in our society today. That how come a lot of people are happy within the police service sector or service, and then other comments are from relevant persons such as the noble woman he spoke to. I'm sure there are also other people who are also not happy about he being removed. But the fact is that for the president, you cannot falter him. He is discharging his constitutional mandate. But then, where we need to understand this critical segment or section of what is going on in society is something I always call something asymmetric information management. Within the same organization or space, there are people or relevant stakeholders who might have been privy to certain pieces of information that external stakeholders might not have had, or even within the same organization. So those who are celebrating, is it that they are privy to relevant pieces of information that we don't know? Or sometimes is it that the man was doing something that they think, no, you shouldn't have done, whether he was doing good or right. So I think all these things, I always want to advise people that I beg everyone, I'm not perfect. You are not perfect. But in doing some of these things, let us place the interests of our country and society first. Because it looks like we have a country that those who are jubilating, some of them might have done that out of, they call something mala fide in law. I'm a student, you are my boss.
Mala fides.
No, but if you check the pronunciation, you say mela.
Okay.
So that's how I understand it. And the others, they say bona fide. Whether in good faith or bad faith, depends on those who are doing that.
Bad faith is mala fides. Okay.
Bad faith and good faith is bona fide.
Okay.
Exactly what I'm saying. So what I'm driving home is that people should act. People should conduct this or omit or avoid some of these things based on good faith, not necessarily because of underlying interest. But of course, they also say that when the frog dies, it is then that you see the size and the length of the frog. Probably, yes, there are hidden pieces of information that people have, making them do this genuinely out of good faith. Probably the man also was doing the right thing that people did not like. But I think for the president, he should be given the needed flexibility to discharge his stewardship as first gentleman of the state in line with the constitution.
Okay.
I heard somebody was taking that to court. I'm not a lawyer, so I don't know how that will hold. But in any case, I always want us to understand that it's not the first time IGP is being removed. And that's why I'm calling for, if possibly they can amend that in our constitution, that something like the chief justices and all those big positions in our judiciary, so that we can freely allow that arm of state of, you call it three arms of government, that the judiciary can be, completely free and use their discretion. And then the security within that armpit can also enforce the laws without any interference from any government or state. And we should also accept the fact that when we have positions, we should know that we will not have the positions in perpetuity. So whatever we do, we should also be careful to make sure that we don't step on too many toes.
Okay.
And people should also appreciate the fact that you might have had interest, but the man also acted in the interest of the state. So I want to avoid a situation where individual interest must override social or bigger interest when it comes to Ghana.
Thank you very much.
So we can build that equilibrium and harmonize relationship and interest.
Thank you very much.
So we can move this
Professor Kwesieni, and thank you very much, Stephen. And Stephen has to take leave of us now. Thank you so much. Professor Kwesieni, yes, we have heard you, join the sections that touts IGP Dampare, as a good example of policing, modern policing, and everything. It does appear that you may be in the minority with that view, reading from the jubilations.
Well, there's nothing wrong being in the minority. Absolutely not. It's a matter of principles, it's a matter of integrity, it's a matter of being firm in your convictions about what you believe in. So being in the minority is not a problem at all. But I do really like both Genevieve and Dr. Amoah's points that they've raised. And let me go to not so much what you've asked me, but actually the president's order to the new IGP about police-community relations, creating public trust, instituting effective policing, empathy, fairness, respect for human rights, and public trust. I think these are all things that Dr. Dampare managed to achieve in bringing a humane approach to policing. When people jubilated, there are two things about that video, or three things I want to speak about. One is the mobbing of the new IGP, that I thought the people who behaved that way was undignified and unprofessional. That's number one. Number two relates to the videographer or some of the people standing beside the person who gave a statement, Ghana police mu ayede or ebeyede. It's going to be nice now in the Ghana police service. And then the individual in the white who was distributing the army and the money. I will ask you to check his background in the Ghana police service and whether there was a personal reason for him to behave that way. So let me come to your specifics. People can celebrate because they perceive the individual who has left office, to be a bad person. Or also that the person is such a disciplinarian and is a stickler for the rules that people felt uncomfortable. That why are the rules applying to me? And I think in your intro, you spoke about how important people who had flouted the law were not allowed to go on. So I may be in the minority for assessing Dr. Dampare fairly and positively, but I think it's a view that would win. I mean, let me just
so from where you said, Prof, bad people are happy because he will give them trouble. Is that it?
No, bad people were unhappy because he gave them a tough time. And right now, from the video, if you can actually play, because it's just about 56 seconds, the last sentence says, I feel the police more. Okay, what does that mean? That now there will be no discipline? That corruption is going to go on? That those on the roadside are going to intimidate us and extort money from us? And I think the president knows what he's doing. Okay, and when Dr. Amar says, so some people have taken the president to court, I am one of them together with Imani.
That's correct.
We take the president to court. This is a case that has been at the Supreme Court for close to a year.
6 months.
Yeah. So, no, we filed it in April 2024. Okay, so there is nothing new in this case. But people want to play politics and twist it around. And it has nothing to do with Dr. Dampare personally. But if you look at some of the things that he did, and when I say he instituted a humane form of policing, for those of us on the outside, we found him, or we found the services or the institution he led doing a very good job. And
let me give you one reason from those who sent me messages when I said last week that I don't see why he should be removed. And if there's anything he's doing wrong, the appointing authority can actually put the cards on the table and say, we need you to do ABC. We understand you are doing 1, 2, 3. Stop doing those. This is a senior police officer. He said, 1, promotions. He has refused to promote officers who are due because he had personal issues with them. Promoted his friends who were juniors ahead of them. A clear example is the current National Security Coordinator, whose promotion was held up for 8 years among many victims. In his 3 years as IGP, there are officers who have promoted, he has promoted 3 times. There is nothing wrong with an officer promoted because he has done well. But 3 times in 3 years is unthinkable. It's politicians who do this because of politics. And IGP advised them against such, but not an IGP doing it. That's just one of his alleged sins.
Samson, we speak truth to power. We don't speak truth after power. And I've always, on your show and elsewhere, challenged people, bring me the evidence and I will take it to Samson and we will make a show about it and get it done well. Look, there are lots of things that can be said about people who have gone to school, have gotten higher qualifications, but junior or supposedly junior officers without those qualifications have been jumped over and above them. All leaders, and I'm not holding brief for Dr. Dampare, but every leader in an institution sometimes will select the best and the brightest who will get a job done. There are people who just want the seat. He just did not want seat warmers just to get promotion because CI 76 or whatever the law says that after every X number of years, you get promoted. The president has charged the new IGP to get a job done. The new IGP has promised us respect for seniority. But there must be a caveat, respect for seniority that delivers on the marching orders from the president about modernization and transformation. And let's not personalize this. Yohonu and I go way back. I've written to him to congratulate him. But if we look at the factual performance and delivery of IGP Dampare, I think there's something to say that he did well.
There are those who suggest or say that, allege that he created this small group of police officers which are known as his boys, and he uses them to deal with even seniors in the service.
What you see, I hate hypocrites who don't speak when the anvil must be struck and it's hot. Okay, you and I know that even when governments do wrong, we speak up. So, Samson, there's a bigger question about the fear and unwillingness by people to speak, because there are multiple oversight institutions, and I'm happy my brother Bafo is here.
Okay.
Multiple oversight institutions
right.
could have called him to check if these things were true, similar to what you are saying.
Okay.
So, I mean, the headquarters management board, we have the police council. You played Mr. Agaga's tape. We have the intelligence, the defense and interior committees. There's an annual report that goes to this committee from the Ghana Police Service, or they can demand it. So if this is the true face of Dr. Dampare, then multiple institutions that ought to have played their oversight role failed disastrously.
Okay, hold on for me. Hold on for me.
The issues are too hot now for people even to be reasonable. But fine.
Okay.
Let me hold on for it.
Thank you. So the minister, deputy minister here, the question is to your government, the manner in which you have gone about the process. There are questions that are being raised. We understand, for example, that the letter removing him, you have heard Kofi Bento, who has represented him particularly at the hearing that happened, ask questions. What does the letter mean? Is it a letter or is it actually a notice? What does it mean? Is it a demotion on retirement or reassignment or what? We actually also understand that even though the letter was not delivered to him, it was put on social media.
Well, Samson, in this country, it won't be the first time appointments and dismissals are put in the media. If that is the only problem that Dr. Dampare has, I think that he will be joining a league of others who either got appointed, their notice of appointment through the media or got their notice of dismissal through the media. But that's just by the way. Samson, I am particularly concerned about the excitement, the euphoria that greeted Dr. Dampare's appointment against a similar euphoria that is greeting his exit. I have been struggling to understand what may have gone wrong between the time of his appointment and now. Because, like Prof is saying, I recall vividly that when he was appointed, I was also in the minority. I was hesitant, but I was hesitant to join that bandwagon effect. It was like, this was the guy with the magic wand to solve all our problems in the police service. And I was concerned about the celebrity associated with his moves and his appointment, but I was hesitant in saying so. So every time I cautioned that he did not allow that fever at the time to get into his head to let him do the wrong things. I had police officers walk up to me around the time of his appointment to say that, oh, that guy was the greatest guy. I mean, he was the one to be considered to solve all the problems. And, you know, yeah, people in uniform they have their the parties, they vote and they...
He was already the man in charge of their transformation project.
Yes, and people really were excited. Men in uniform, women in uniform were excited that he was coming. And so I've been wondering since he has...
Did he justify the jubilation?
That's where I'm coming to. That's where I'm coming to. I mean, so because I was in the minority, I was waiting to see what dramatically was going to change about our police service. Samson, I'm sorry. I mean, I didn't see it.
Really?
I haven't.
You
to
haven't?
be honest with you, I haven't. Apart from the headquarters building that looks more beautiful, visibility has only been maintained as he inherited it, maybe improved by the provision of more motorbikes. But
say what exactly you want to say. Improved or not improved? You said maybe improved.
No, I'll say, you see, it was already there. It was a system that was started, remember, I think by IGP Al-Hassan. You understand?
That's correct, that's correct.
Yes, so if he has come to enhance it, really, that's not what I was expecting. Because of the euphoria that greeted, I was expecting dramatic transformation, like I said, not enhancement of what was already in existence. So I didn't really see that dramatic transformation that I thought
his human relations.
Yes, I mean, those ones, they don't go to the market, in my view. I mean, for me, it's not about how nice you are to people. It's about the results you bring to the team.
Is it me or
how mean
is it me
you are?
or generally,
yes,
you are not under the impression that crime appears not to be what we used to hear about?
Absolutely. I think that crime has not gone down. I also think that investigations into some very critical, happenings in this country remain inconclusive. And there are many, you can cite them. And like you said, about his human relations, it looked more like PR, especially when you go in and you are speaking to the police officers, and then they tell you that there's they give you a different vibe. I mean, for example, when he appeared before the Parliament committee, on that matter, I was consistent on his side because I thought he was just being made a scapegoat. And I thought, COP Alex was not, a cop to emulate.
He says,
given the details that we had from the tape, he wasn't a cop to emulate. No matter the sins and the crimes of Dr. Dampare at the time, I thought what was happening to him was really, really
he went to contest elections and he lost.
And he lost. So I think that the president has the prerogative to have either maintained him or to have changed him. Tete Yahonu has been in the service for I think about 40 years now, and
42 or so.
I came close to him when he was Greater Accra Regional Police Commander, and I was in the media, and I think he did his best. So I'm just hoping that he will justify this confidence that has been reposed in him. And it will not be. I've also been concerned, like Prof said, what is accounting for the excitement now? Is it that people feel they can now be in discipline? People feel they can now take advantage of the system more? Or it is actually as a result of, discrimination, palpable discrimination that they felt, that they thought needed to be rectified? What time will tell.
Yes, Prof, let's hear your views on what is going on.
Well, thanks, Samson, and nice to meet my good old friends.
Always a pleasure, Prof.
Thank you. I think this issue certainly is not new in many ways. But I think the way the public has reacted to this particular dismissal, quote unquote, or sacking or whatever, seems very interesting. Then also we have to put in a general context. You see, in Ghana, especially in these institutions, there are two things that seem to be very important to members or those who belong to the institution. Number one is what I refer to as the seniority syndrome. If you're a senior, you deserve to go up. Yeah. In which case, you don't look at performance or skills or anything. I was here before you, and therefore you cannot come and, be placed above me. That's number one. Then in the police in particular, is the promotional issues, how one gets promoted from one level to the other, and whoever is making the promotion. If you look at this and then you compare it with the armed forces, the way they've structured their training and other things and promotions is clear-cut.
Recently there have been issues about the promotions there too.
Well, maybe at the highest levels, because at the highest levels, the service commanders, the president is the one who appoints.
Discretion is there.
Exactly. But below that, it's a system that works smoothly. And the reason why the military has no such problems is because their training have been structured in such a way that once you start the process from military academy and you are promoted, everything is measured, everything is detailed. You are given certain grades, and as you move on, they look at all this, and then you come. So by the time you come to the upper echelon of the institution, nobody questions your ability, nobody questions your performance, because you couldn't have gotten there if you had not proved yourself. The police is not like that. So here we are with an institution where they are very much glued to I came first, seniority. And then if I came first, then your promotion cannot,
Dampare suffered this.
Well, I'm not mentioning names. I'm just describing the systems as they are. And I think now coming to Dampare himself, these are two issues that have dogged him since he got appointed to that level. One, as you know, and in fact, comparing him today with the newly appointed IGP, you made a reference to the point that Yohunu has been there 40 years or 42 years. Dampare, 35 years. So naturally, he came and, overtook him. And that has been a consistent pain for those who are in the system. Then Dampare also, in terms of promotions, I think he also stuck to this new way of doing things. Like, look, if you perform better, if you are better, it doesn't matter how long you've been here. And this is what created this problem for him from within the police service. Look, Samson, I have to be honest. For the past 2-3 years, I, who has no position, no influence, I do receive calls and information from police officers who are aggrieved, thinking I have a way to influence it. But of course, I have no influence in this system. But it tells you, and it was all relating to the issue of promotions. The man is just like somebody said, he's promoting his friends, but maybe these were better performing officers. I don't know. But
there was a group too that was complaining.
Yes.
And I had the privilege of, trying to represent some of them. They are in their thousands, or 1,000 plus at least.
Right.
They have, on their own, improved themselves academically.
Yes.
But the police have rules, and their procedure requires that to go to school, you must have secured permission, approval, and go to school, then return, then you may go on the promotion. But people took their own weekends. These days, you see the flexible stuff. And they've made better degrees for themselves. And they all wanted to be promoted. And they were told that that's not the system. You can't go through it. So all of these people will be aggrieved.
And you know that in this country, whoever is put in a position of authority and seeks to enforce the rules and the laws, that person becomes an enemy to all. Nobody can dispute this. We have seen it not only in the police, even in the civil service. You go, you are put in authority, and you start to, you are going to experience it now that you are deputy minister.
What do you say about the fact that the suit that was begun in April 2024 is pending? It's general. It's not to the president not removing IGP or so, but for fire service chief, is it immigration, those chiefs. Imani and Professor Enin are in court, at the Supreme Court, saying that the president should not be able to remove them unless with just cause, as the Constitution says in Article 191, that for people in the public service, in the civil service, you can only remove them for just cause.
Who determines what?
The just cause means there's some misconduct or something of the sort.
More than that.
Not that there's a political change in government. That's no just cause.
No, yes.
So that's what they are in court arguing.
Just cause, for example.
And then they just got wind of the fact that he was going to be, as it were, removed or replaced. Then they went with an injunction application on the 13th, and the president still went ahead. What do you say about that?
No, you see, first of all, Dampare is not an ordinary person in our system. So I know people are citing the case of Domelevu, who, you know that case. I said, no, these are two different. Look, Domelvu, sorry. His appointment has to go through the Civil Service Commission, interviewed and all. IGP doesn't. And so here we have to make a distinction between the top officers of security agencies and ordinary, so to speak, quote unquote, civil service. And any president coming into power certainly would like to have top officers who are aligned with his vision of leadership. You cannot dispute that. Look at what's happening even in the US of all. So I think I find nothing wrong with the president changing him as a police IGP and even the CDS if he decides to. It happens. But every president also must be very conscious and sensitive to making these moves because again, if you make the wrong move, you are going to disorganize this.
He's 55, so is he demoted? What is he supposed to do? He's not on retirement.
That's a very interesting but very difficult question. In other institutions, 54, you can still be in the institution, continue until you retire at 60. But you cannot step down from IGP to become a director of something. That doesn't...
It's like stepping down from Chief Justice.
Precisely.
To become a member,
exactly,
a member of the bench.
You see, so for me, and now that you have asked that question, my regret for Dampare is that once it became obvious that the president is going to drop him, and it's been going around for weeks, if not months, he should have honorably retired and then go to the president, discuss why, the president certainly will accept, then you are sent off in a very nice, dignified way. Frankly, I'm not happy with the way the man is being sent off. It's very poor departure arrangements. The man has served this nation for 35 years in the service.
Would you have him continue?
Well, if I were the president, I would look at all the factors. I'm not the president. I don't know what
Thank you very much. Prof. In a minute, I'm sorry, but we are run out of time. What happens to him in the circumstances?
Well, I think what happens to him is what Balfour has captured. He cannot take any other position within the Ghana Police Service, so he's a retired man. And I think routinely he might be made an ambassador or a high commissioner, that is if he accepts it, or he might be invited by ECOWAS, African Union, or the United Nations to hold a high position in law and enforcement. But in his own letter thanking the president, he spoke about his willingness to continue to serve Ghana. So there are multiple. Okay,
I said in a minute, in some 30 seconds, I want to hear this from you. The NDC that was raising all sorts of suspicions with the appointment of Yohonu as a deputy, suddenly is very happy that everything is fine. He should be the IGP.
That's not what we are saying, Samson.
Yes, Prof.
I haven't heard anyone say that.
Yes. So I am very clear. You said I am in the minority. I am in the minority based on principles and integrity and the fairness and strength of my convictions. Okay. I never waver. When I make a mistake, I will accept it. But I will never play political football with my integrity and with my convictions. Okay. And that is what we are in this country.
All right, thank you very much. Genevieve, I haven't heard everything you have heard across the table, including how he's exiting. You are human rights defenders. You may have had issues with him, how he dealt with demonstrators and all of that. What do you say?
Absolutely. So I really hope my line is clear. I've been having bad network.
It's very clear.
Great. So I think I would just say, one, I mean, like I said, the relationship was not exactly great, but that is very normal with Amnesty International being a human rights organization. But we do hope that regardless of disagreements, we can at least find, a way to cooperate and work for the betterment of the people in Ghana. I would like to say, though, that in our report, our Human Rights Report 2023, that we did recognize an increase in police brutality and also excessive use of force And this has been on the increase in Ghana. So I believe that also has been something worrying for us as human rights.
I suppose that was before the elections, right?
Yes,
Okay.
that was before the elections, and it was registered in our 2022 report and our 2023 report.
All right.
We're yet to issue the 2024 report.
Okay.
So just to say in general that honestly, things have not exactly been great. The relationship with police leadership, it's been, very nuanced. I have to admit that we've met with formed police units. They were very receptive of us. We had a discussion before the Stop Galamsey protest. And even if we agreed to disagree on issues, at least there was dialogue. And I feel like that is the most important thing for us.
Okay, all right.
We need to dialogue more.
Right.
And I'm just hoping that the new IGP will also grant us audience and we talk about things, regardless of the fact that we disagree on issues.
Thank you very much. That was
Thank
Genevieve Paddington, who is Country Director, Amnesty International, Professor Bafo Ajimandria, former UN Governance Advisor, right here in the studio. Alhassan S. Suhini is Deputy Minister for Roads and Highways and MP for Tamale North, right here in the studio. And Professor Kwesi Ening is Security Consultant and backs the IGP on principal grounds, the former IGP. Well, that's the end of the road for Dampare, but it happens. So let's see how things go. I'm Samson Ladianyelini. Once again, thank you very much for your company. And for those of you, the period of Ramadan, let me say again, I'll come to you some 20 seconds.
Okay.
My outfit, that is Fugu exclusive. If you want Fugu that is light, not as heavy and thick, you can call Konati Clothing 0244-676732 and they'll make a special one for you for your Ramadan. I can take you in 30 seconds.
So I was just saying that, the police can't demonstrate in this country. They are part of the institutions that cannot demonstrate. So this change should not be viewed in the light, on the basis of mere political change.
Okay.
It is not because there's a political change that this has happened. The reaction we are getting from the police service tells you the factors that may have been considered by the president before the decision was taken. I don't think he took it lightly at all.
Correct. And I also re-emphasize a point made by my brother, Professor Neem, about the way the police have been jubilating and this ugly video where big policemen were falling on the ground just chasing after money. I felt so sad for them.
Interesting.
It's completely irresponsible.
There's supposed to be a huge traffic going to Takoradi.
Had similar
Takoradi for the funeral of Wasting Amwa's dad, and we understand that the Africa World flight for 9 a.m. Got cancelled. I hope things get resolved quickly because that would be really bad. There are MPs who were eulogizing him yesterday and all want to be in Takoradi. So please, let's get this fixed for the funeral of Winston Amwa's dad in Takoradi in Impoho. Right? Have a good afternoon. I'm Samson Ladianyelini. This has been Newsfile.
Bank of Africa, as strong as a group, as close as a partner. Where Duraplas goes, water flows.
PS Industries has introduced a new roofing system known as ColorLink Plus.
Flamingo paint, simply superior.
Syntax tank, are you strong? Are you tough? Cherry Tree Properties. We develop spaces as though we were going to occupy them.
Are you strong? You're tough. Syntax tank, syntax tank. Ladies and gentlemen, I beg you, check your tongue and get syntax. SINTEX. Wait, you're just over 25 years. We have made in Ghana water storage solution. You were green, you were blue, colors in here. Your mom free water. We have over 400 agents nationwide. Ghana find us on social media. Syntax Ghana. Not nominate here. Say Giovanni, Syntax, I need you in this community. And it's that simple. I will be there myself. Syntax Ghana page. All right, so just like that, we're wrapping up inside Tessie. Syntax Tank! Hey, strong! Hey, strong!
March is Colorectal Cancer Awareness Month. Have you attained 45 years and older? Notice blood in your stool, a family history of cancer? Then don't wait to have a colonoscopy. Early detection of cancer and effective treatment save lives.
There are weak points in the development and spread of cancers of the large bowel that we have control over to stop, to reduce the incidence and deaths from these cancers. Achieving this success depends on you and me. We are fully prepared. What about you?
Visit Mintuba Hospital and Coloproctology Center today or call us. Mintuba Hospital, First Ghana Colorectal Center, in to serve a peculiar health need.
Excellent furnishing in a real estate business is a great deal for survival. My struggles as a young estate developer were cut short when I discovered Fernart Ghana. With quality furniture made from the finest woods and amazing after-sale service, Fernart Ghana changed my story with every single home I built. It's a one-stop shop that serves the interests of clients with a variety of living room and dining sets, solid wood kitchen installations, wardrobes, doors, cabinets, beds, pergolas, floor parquets, and many other wooden products that will last a lifetime. With Fernat Ghana, all clients are offered the opportunity to customize furniture to their specifications, and the smile on their faces says it all. Thanks to Fernat, now your home can look beautiful with furniture that would last for generations. Visit Fernat Ghana today and share my story. Locate us at Yaniba Estate, Osu, Accra, or call 0303-966-085 or 055-278-4097. Think wood, think Fernat.
To us trendsetters, to us fashion lovers, to us who flex with beautiful, unique and attractive fragrance, to us who sing of our magnificent life. Daring to feel different today means impacting a pleasant scent. For tomorrow's dawn, feel good, feel strong. Together let's break these rules and set new ones with slam. Together let's break these rules and set new ones with slam.
And thank you again, and welcome to The Sages. Today, I am delighted, and I'm looking forward to this conversation because of who I'm going to be talking to here on The Sages. He is Professor Amunsaba Sakada, and I've just been fascinated by what he's done in his life, and I'm looking forward to this conversation because he's a man of many parts indeed. He's a writer, he's a journalist like myself, and we have that in common. He is a lecturer, he's a filmmaker, he's everything. And I just found out just before we came on air that he also loves music. he also loves the way African music can take over the world and its interrelatedness with everything else. He's also a poet, he's a philosopher, and I'm really looking forward to this conversation. I want to introduce you to him too. Doc, thank you very much for your time here on The Sages.
It's a pleasure to be here and to participate in such an important discussion, which is reaching Pan-Africanists all over the world.
And let's start from where I just summarized the many parts that make you Dr. Amon Sakana. We talk about the fact that you're a writer, you're a journalist, you're a lecturer, you're a filmmaker, revolutionary even, philosopher, photographer, publisher, poet. And of course, I found that you also love music, you're a music lover too. I mean, before we even get into the other details that I'm looking forward to talking to you about, how do you fit all that in the life that you've had, a relatively short life of yours?
Let's put it this way. Western education has degenerated the possibility of the human capacity by compartmentalizing education into various disciplines. In the deep African tradition, a philosopher was one who asked questions, who stays up all night trying to solve a problem, and who also listened to people. And he responds or interacts with the community. So someone who is growing up in a community will be exposed to a variety of ideas, not separated, but as a holistic whole. And that is what I'm trying to represent in my own life and in my own work, to bring back the possibility of the individual having a better understanding of his own history and his own role in community and in the world. And that integration began in Africa from the beginning, and we have lost it under slavery and colonialism.
And to that point, I come to next, and because I also see that you are a Pan-Africanist. Am I categorizing you right on this particular one?
You are.
Exactly. What's your assessment of Pan-Africanism as we speak today?
Well, we have quite a long history of it. And if we relegate it only to the invention of the term Pan-Africanism, we will not see the larger picture. We know, for example, going back thousands of years, around 1500 BCE, before the Christian era, an Egyptian, Nissu, referred to as Pharaoh, made a voyage to the Americas. His name was Ramesses III. And he discovered the United States, Mexico, and many other countries in the South American and Central American area. And then we have the brother of Mansa Musa of the 14th century Mali, who also made a journey with 1,000 ships from Mali to the Americas. And the sculptures are found in Mexico, in Guatemala, in many, many, many places in South America. Huge, gigantic sculptures are found showing the absolute African imprint of that voyage. And not only that, they brought social, scientific, and political development to America, which was not there before.